This is RPD Officer Leon Kennedy, and you're listening to the Let's Talk Resident Evil podcast.
What is going on, everyone? Anthony here, and welcome back to another episode of the Let's Talk Resident Evil podcast. And we are finally here reviewing the Resident Evil 4 remake. But I have special guests here. You can't see them yet. Once I switch the camera, you'll be able to see them. You might know them from the Game Complainers. I have Perry, and I also have Frank.
Hello.
Welcome, guys. Now they can see you. And
Hello.
I really appreciate you guys coming on here and going through this game is, pretty much what a lot of people were waiting for, is kind of going through this in an in-depth discussion, talking about spoilers, talking about pretty much everything. So that's what this is going to be. It's going to be a little lengthy. I'm going to try to go through the game section by section. But real quick, I just kind of want to chat with you guys about how much we've been enjoying Resident Evil 4. It's no surprise that we've been playing this thing. Perry's been streaming it every day, it seems. And Frank has also played it a bunch. So how has been just your experience now that it's been out for 2 months? We'll start with Perry. How has that been for you?
Perfect. I didn't think the game would be this good, but it's blown away my expectations.
Now you're playing on PC, so you are also
doing
doing mods and stuff too. You played on everything.
I played on all consoles, even the PlayStation 4 Pro. I beat it on every console. Series S, Series X, PlayStation 5, PlayStation 4 Pro, now PC. I will tell you, the PC version is the smoothest version.
Yeah.
It's beautiful, it's wonderful, and now I'm
awesome.
playing again with mods on top of it.
Yeah.
So
You got Shrek in there. You got a bunch of different things.
yeah, and when I get to the island level, there's a Batman mod for Leon.
That's
so when I get to the island level, it's going to look like Batman Forever when they get to the Riddler's Island at the end of the film.
And I was able to mess with the trainer a little bit when I was over there for the 10-year show for Game Complainers. So that was
playing
fun.
as Master Chief.
And yeah, that was again seeing everything kind of streamed and the different platforms that it's on, trying to experience it. It's been out for 2 months, so we've been able to play it a lot, stream it a lot, discuss it a lot. So this is a better way to approach it, where everything has kind of sunken in a bit and we know what we want to say and how we want to kind of say it without it being oh, we got to just hurry up and get something out real quick. So that's kind of the approach that, I'm trying to take. So Frank, how has been your experience? Because Frank has not played the original Resident Evil 4. So this is his first experience with...
He's a lucky man. Let's just call it that.
So he pretty much has the newest edition of RE4 being your first experience. So how has been your last 2 months playing this game?
I dabbled with the original just for, an hour or two. I really couldn't get the controls down. I just was having a hard time, whatever. But this game blew me away. I played the other remakes, but this game, I'm loving it so far. I played through it probably 7 times already. I'm working on my 8th playthrough. My first playthrough, I played it on the PC because we just built a new PC. And it was smooth. It was nice. And then I played it on the Series X. I played it a little bit on my Series S. I cannot stop playing the game. It's just so weird. I'm not getting sick of it. I'm always trying to play through it and go faster and use different weapons and stuff like that. I'm having a great time with it. I really am.
Unlock stuff and all that. Yeah, that's what's really cool about it, is the fact that, there is that replay value. And I think all of us have been kind of, going back and playing it, trying to unlock stuff, but just because it's also fun, even if you're just playing for fun and not even trying to get the extra stuff. So it definitely has that effect, and I know we're going to talk about that a little bit later in terms of the replay value, the stuff that you can unlock. It's really cool how much is actually in this game. It really has that feel of 2005 all over again, where you're kind of experiencing it for the first time again. It feels like when you see a remake that's done like this, So it's no surprised that we are, enjoying it. We've, played it, we streamed it, we've talked about it on Game Complainers, we've talked about it, I've talked about it in my review, and also in just Hangouts, like how, I've kind of reflected on the past, few playthroughs and stuff, the harder modes and doing all that stuff. So a lot of stuff with Resident Evil 4 that a lot of people wanted to kind of get into is like obviously like how we responded to the differences in the gameplay, in the mechanics, in what they added with the side missions, all that stuff. We'll be discussing all of this kind of point by point with each area of the game. So this kind of being a continuation of where Leon's story is. And that's the one thing that I think a lot of people wanted to see is how were they going to do Leon in this story post Resident Evil 2 Remake. We see him portrayed obviously as the rookie cop like he was. They didn't really change him much in terms of like how he reacted to the situation and how, but with this game, with Resident Evil 4, they wanted to show a different side to Leon in terms of like, they really want, from the beginning, he looks like, a little bit more tired, older. You see the intro where it rolls in the cutscene and he says that he was asked, quote unquote, asked to be in this government agency post Raccoon City. So the one thing that they wanted to focus on immediately from what we saw from the trailers was that Leon was going to be a little bit more jaded, but also experienced with all that stuff. So it's like he has a little bit more, he still has the smart remarks and stuff, but he also has a very, like, I've been through this before and now I'm not messing around, and he's definitely trained, as we see Krauser training him in the intro scene. So the intro scene is very well done. The one thing that they didn't mention was that, like, oh, Umbrella stocks crash and they're finished. They didn't really, like, necessarily say that. They kind of talk about it later in a conversation with Luis, which we'll talk about later in the mines, but, like, it's different, it's not exactly the same. And they kind of filled in just the little stuff that they peppered in with like Krauser training Leon and stuff. Like they try to just make it a little bit more connected to, this character that went through this experience. And the whole theme of this game, and I mentioned it in my review, is change, him changing and evolving from these experiences. So I think the way that they kicked off Leon just with this intro, and then obviously it cuts to like, him kind of explaining where he's been, where he's at now. And he's looking for the president's daughter who's gone, missing. She got kidnapped on her way back from college campus. And he has to go in with these two police officers that are driving him in there, just like the original. But you really do get that dark and eerie tone with this game just from the start, because the engine, it's not like, it doesn't look as gray. It just looks like darker, like, and I like that. It has like a nighttime vibe. It has, the light casting through the trees. I love the village
section. It has
section
more of a horror feel.
Yeah, it definitely
does. Whereas the original is brown and yellow. It's just
right,
piss and shit all over the place.
Yeah,
like the game was.
Right. Well, Perry does not like. Yeah, if you haven't guessed, Perry does not like the original RE4. But we'll get into that though, because
I like RE4. But the problem is, I think the game was overhyped for what was it? What are we now? Almost 20 years in. It was a good game, but it's like, okay, we move on, and everyone's like, it's the greatest game ever made. It's like, no, it isn't.
It's
no, it is not.
It's high in it's. I mean, it's in high regard in terms of like, I mean, I still love the original. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, but you know what though? A lot of people they get on 5. They're like 5 made it more action oriented, but that all started with 4.
Yeah, 4 is the one that
if 4 wasn't, if you guys didn't make 4 popular, we wouldn't have gotten 6. So think about that for 5 seconds. Anyway,
it's
this
like
remake I think is 20 times better than the original. It's 100 times better. I'll never touch the original again. I want to play this game.
Right. Well, I think as time sinks in, that's a good point, though. And I know we'll talk about that later, too. Like, as time goes on, this kind of just being the definitive way to play RE4 because of how just, like, fast you can jump in, how smooth everything is. And I think a lot of people will have their, or they'll go back and play everything, just kind of like how I still go back and play the originals to the remakes to, just go back and play them. But I understand, like, a lot of people just won't do that. They won't go back and play the OG. They'll just be like, yeah, this is good. This is like...
He didn't.
That's what I'm saying. Like, Frank's good, with that. So...
he's new to the franchise.
Yeah.
And even I told him to go back and play the other ones. He don't want to do it because he likes the new ones. He likes the remakes.
Yeah, so you've been getting up to speed with that, which is good because you still get the story. Because the one thing that I was going to mention here with like how the story kind of like opens up, like they don't really change anything very crucial. And the stuff that they did change within the story as we talk about it, it just works very well. They didn't do anything that really caused oh my God, why they do that? Like they try to keep it a little bit more, they explain it more. They explain the intro a little bit better. And I like how Leon kind of approaches the entry into the woods here, where he just kind of goes and then they park behind him, and they all get they all pretty much separate, and that's when they get taken off one by one. So it's very similar, but again, the RE engine really shines through because this is the best it's looked. I think at this point we have Street Fighter 6 coming out, we have Dragon's Dogma, all stuff running on RE engine. So we have a lot of good stuff that's coming out that's like really showing how good this thing can run. And that's what makes you not want to go back and see the original graphics, because when you just see how good the graphics run on this thing, like especially seeing it on PC, which like I haven't been able to play firsthand, but I've seen Perry play it and I played it. Well, yeah, like I actually did play it recently, like when I was over there, but like I haven't streamed it on PC like a lot of people. But
oh man,
it's buttery smooth on there, and
even on a 3070, a card that's 3 years old runs and looks fantastic.
Yeah, because I played it over there on Perry's OLED and PC, and it worked awesome. And yeah, so but that's the story itself. Like I really like the fact that they didn't like change too much about this, and of course like opening up, like you have Leon going into the village, and we all know that he sees meets the Ganado in the cabin. You have to get the key, unlock it, find the dead officer. So it splits you up and throws you right into it immediately. And the one thing that I love about this whole, exploration that we get here is the fact that the village definitely feels a lot more expanded on, maybe because there's also backtracking with side missions, but I like the fact that there's little things that are different here that still surprise players. They didn't really make it like completely, one for one, where it was like, oh, like, you're not expecting, well, before you read about it in the press release, you weren't expecting to fall through the bell tower. People probably didn't expect that. Or the fact that the bell tower actually explodes. Things like that are pretty cool. The things that they did with the village. I think that the whole section that got us ready in the demo, like the whole main village circle where the police officer gets burned and you got to, run through the bear trap and stuff like that. That's when I played that demo, and obviously it was very similar to like the final game, besides the little like, TMP Easter egg and all the little Easter eggs people were figuring out at that time. When I played that demo, and I don't know if you guys would agree, like that's when I was like, okay, like I think they got this thing like down. I didn't want to jump to conclusion, but when I finally played that demo and played it over and over again and played it on the Mad Chainsaw or whatever the hell it was just like, I was like, man, like they got everything down between how the Ganados are really fierce. They are a threat. They definitely feel more threatening, especially just the villagers, alone. Just how much they feel like a threat, especially on the harder modes. Like obviously you can kind of get it down when you played it, but at the time, even just playing the first couple playthroughs, like they're pretty tough, and the chainsaw guy's tough, and I think the Dr. Salvador, the double Salvador that you can pull off to get the treasure, that's always cool. That's always a really cool challenge to try to do as well. Meet him at the door and then run into the cabin. But they really kept that the same, and I know that they apparently were almost going to cut the bingo line, but they wanted to keep it in there. So the whole bingo line, happens, and it cuts to the title card. And Resident Evil 4, it has those beats of like, it throws you in, and like Perry said, it started to get the action elements kind of like, worked in there. And how did you guys feel as far as like when you explore the village here? Like, how did you feel when it comes to like, you know, going back, doing the side missions, or like just exploring the different things? Like, you have the whole boat section as well. So like, I kind of wanted to hear what you guys had to say about the village in terms of like as you kind of got further in.
It looks the same for the most part. The only thing is, you know, there's some areas that are like closed off, like that other side, like the right hand side. There's that boarded up thing. You could usually go through there. Not this time because they saved that for later now.
Yeah.
You falling through that thing, I think they did that on purpose because they knew people were hiding up there in the original.
Yeah.
The tower, and I think Capcom was like, yeah, we're not going to have that this time.
We're going to switch it up a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, so not only does that scare you when you fall through it, but I think that was Capcom telling you, like, not this time, buddy. So,
yeah,
I do like the stealth, though. Like, usually, like, in the original game, you just run straight to the guy getting burned. In this one, you are more likely to go to the left and then, you know, do the stealth thing with the lady, you know, the lady that's back there. And you go stealth and you stab her.
Right.
That's where that kind of changed because you're sneaking into the village this time, whereas opposed to the original game, you're just going into the village.
Yeah, and that stealth, you're right. Like that's really what gave us that like first like you know when we played the demo and we were like, oh wow, we can sneak into this thing and try to take out as many as we can without them being alerted. So it helps you a little bit, and that was that really was like the introduction to the stealth element.
And by the way, I don't know if you noticed, but the guy that they light on fire, in the original, he's to the left. In this one, he's to the right.
Yeah.
So, it's kind of like...
And they added him screaming and stuff, which was a nice little touch, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They definitely didn't hold back with the gore here.
No.
But the stealth was cool because, again, it gives you that knife is really your best friend in this game, and, like, you really have to pay attention to upgrading that, and we'll talk about that in a little bit in terms of like that whole you know the mechanics within that, because this obviously doesn't have the dodge mechanic, it has the parry mechanic, so it's a very different style of combat, because the combat is amped up a little bit, and that's the one thing that you get from that little village section where you're like, damn, like I'm getting run up on, and I have to dodge this person at this time, and then make sure no one's coming up behind me. Like they really do a good job at like making the villager Ganados from the start feel like a threat way more than the original, and that's definitely something that was present throughout like this whole section. Now the different things, like you said, like the things that they kind of changed with some of the layouts and some of the pathways and stuff like that. The stuff that they kind of added, it didn't really seem, it really did seem like it was seamless, like the way they connected everything. It didn't seem like they were, making it to where like it was too much of the same thing, because the village was pretty like we knew in our head, okay, like after the big cheese, that's when we get to the castle. So you knew they were going to still pace it the same way. But Frank, what did you think of the village, seeing it for the first time, but you're seeing it in like this dark, kind of gory, messed up, like there's dead animals everywhere. There's like, skulls hanging from the ceiling. Like the imagery in this is like a lot more darker. So like, what did you think about the village section in terms of like the visuals?
It's funny when you start out, you're in the house and you see the first Ganado, and he's like slow moving, and you're just like, okay, like, this is scary, but whatever. Like, it's going to be like a typical like zombie thing. Then you keep going and you get to them lighting the guy on fire, and they just go crazy. They're grabbing you. It's like, it's like, man, this is really, like you said, they're really a threat in this game. I don't know about how much worse they were in the other one, but it really just throws you right into it. And I remember too, the scenery is really, they're really painting a picture with the scenery. I had to go back because when I pushed the gate open, I remember that something fell. I was like, what just fell? And I went to go look, and you're like, oh my God, there's like a head that just fell. Yeah. And it's like I found myself at times in my first playthrough just looking around at stuff, like the little idols they make and stuff, and you're just like, wow, like this is some creepy stuff right here. And you're right in the beginning, so you're just wondering what the heck is going to happen later. I mean, you guys knew what to expect, but for me, I'm like, man, already they just thrust you into this like creepy stuff. So I love that first village part. That's what really sucked me right into the game at first.
Yeah, no, that's a great thing of like, that kind of being like just that introduction of, like what the horror is going to be ahead, and especially because these enemies are definitely a lot more vicious, and it's a lot more harder to kind of get kind of clumped up in groups. You have to make sure you stay like away from being surrounded, or like they will grab you. They'll, you have to worry about other enemies throwing stuff at you. Their aim in this game, like they can throw and they will hit you. Like if they're throwing an axe across like the map, like they will hit your ass, even if you don't
It's a
think
homing axe.
Yeah, like it's just like it's like auto lock, like they are definitely pissed off in this game, and the folk horror vibes that they had in the original was awesome, and they definitely capture that here with just like the insignia logo for the Los Illuminados being everywhere. I love the pictures that they have in the in the house, in Chief's house, where it has the symbol just pretty much stamped on the pictures. Like between the files and kind of reading about, they try to really fill in the history a little bit better here with the files, and I'm happy they didn't like steer away from that, especially in the village section, because one of the best parts about this section here that I love, and I want to hear what you guys have to say about it too, is Luis, because Luis is like a pretty big character in this game, a lot more than in the original, and he's one of my favorite elements about this.
He's more modernized in this, thank God.
Right. Like
he actually comes off like a person, like an actual person. In the original game, he's like a Latin lover.
He's like
dressed
joking.
like George Washington. I'm like, what is this? Like, you know what I mean? In this one, he's like a typical, normal, modernized person.
Right.
With the leather jacket on, with the jeans on. A lot of people don't like this version of him, which I don't understand. I was like, dude, if you were over there right now, today, that's what the guy would look like.
Yeah, I
don't
understand
this thing
that.
with the thing coming out. Whoa, I could help you, Leon. Like, whatever he says. I don't even remember that.
I don't even know, like, why people would not, because, I don't know, I just feel like this was him.
They stereotyped a lot of people in the old one. Like, badly.
It's just like, why would you have a character that is supposed to be this, great researcher in the original, and then they barely use him?
What researcher dresses like that?
Right.
Oh, Leon!
Well, they gave him the vest in this, so he still has the vest, but...
right, but he's dressed like a guy that's off the clock in this one. You know what I mean?
And he works for Umbrella in this game, so that's a big...
Right, and that was a nice little tie-in.
Yeah. You
that
see the
made
picture
him,
in
that,
this lab.
That streamlined him, modernized him, and made it make sense.
Yeah, and he got in touch with Ada when he, was obviously that was his way out, and I think with this whole thing and like the cabin that you go into, that's actually, with Luis, that was his cabin from when he was a kid. So that picture that you see on the, I think you find it on the table in there, or maybe it's in the, it's also in the attic too. It's in the attic in the Chief's house when you got to go back with Ashley and pull down the ladder or whatever.
Right.
But yeah, like that being the cabin that you find him in, he's kind of in the, like you hear the banging and you think it's like, okay, it's Luis in the cabin, but it's not. It's like a Ganado hitting the floor. So that was kind of a funny little twist, because in the original he's like just in a closet, like locked, so he's just banging it, banging on it or whatever. So it's kind of cool they did a little thing like that. But his introduction is better. I like the whole, like, they're chained up, but they're able to, like, snap the Ganado's neck and stuff like that, work together. Because in the original, he just, like, he sees Leon, they dodge the Ganado, Leon snaps his neck, and then Luis just runs out scared. But in here, it's like,
well, they're on the floor handcuffed. And I hate that scene, the opening scene, when they're handcuffed on the floor and you hit the buttons.
Yeah.
And Leon just goes, now!
Yeah, now!
And then they both, move around and the axe breaks the handcuffs.
And then he just runs away. Like, he just runs away.
This, again, was more modernized. Like, they're tied up to this thing and they end up using it to kill the Ganado or whatever the hell he's called.
And the acting
I haven't played this game for almost 20 years. I don't even know they're called Ganados. I don't pay attention.
Well, yeah, because, that picture of, Luis and his grandfather, the Navarro family, like, it's cool that they just, added that little thing. It doesn't have to be anything, very specific that like, they had to change. They were just like, you know what? Let's change his early, info, like, the early information that kind of makes him into a researcher. Because how did he become, this researcher?
Yeah, he's just some guy on the island in the original.
Right. And again, it's said in the lore, but again, they don't really show it, is that like,
Right.
okay, he's like, supposed to be doing this for, obviously this out for Ada, but then you don't really see him, like, you don't ever see the emails that he did the Ada. You don't ever see the lab equipment and stuff like you do in this game. Like, it's almost like they had it there, but they didn't really like put the time in to say, okay, let's actually show like part of Luis here and like how serious he was. Like you said, he was just very generic and by the numbers, where here it's like, no, like, they actually,
his character's
tried.
more fleshed out over here.
Yeah, they actually tried. They weren't like, all right, let's have Luis in there. Let's just kill him off in the beginning of the castle. Because
Yeah, and you end up liking this version of Luis better, in my opinion. Look, I know the fans are gonna like be like, "Oh, the original's the best." I think that this version of Luis is the best. Sorry.
yeah, and honestly, in my opinion, I think as far as the big cheese, Mendez, I think this is one of my favorite versions of him too, because the fact that they had him also, in that scene where he's struggling, he just like he pulls out the Las Plagas thing and just injects Leon right there. Like, I like that because it always seemed weird that like they get captured and then it cut to a cutscene of Sadler like, feel our power, and then he disappears. Here they wanted to keep Sadler away for a while, so I
think injecting Leon earlier in the game, it puts more tension on the player, because you're like, wait a minute, that's not supposed to happen at the beginning.
right.
So is something going to happen to Leon in the middle of the game or during the course of the game? And it fits for storyline purposes, because if you're just a viewer for the first time, not even just a player, but if you're watching the cutscenes or whatever on YouTube, you're like, wait a minute, this guy just got injected with the virus at the very beginning. How's this going to play out? Is this guy going to make it to the end of the game? Or are they going to put a little twist on the end of it? It was nice. It was nice that they did that.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing too. Like, I think I'm trying to remember where that cutscene. Yeah, because the cutscene happens, and you immediately think, okay, like this isn't, this isn't going to happen the same way in the upstairs cutscene, where it used to be an optional cutscene where if you went back in, you would run into the big cheese, but you could easily miss that if you didn't go back in and then see Ada. So you could miss that cutscene entirely if you didn't know. But in this one, it's like you see him no matter what. So I like the fact that they made his presence like you just see him, because they know like, okay, he's only going to be in this section of the game. But the fact that he had those, connections to, Luis and his grandfather, because his grandfather got ill. He got attacked by wolves and shit like that. Like, they wrote this whole thing about, the family, and, the picture is from 1981, when you see it. So it's, Luis is probably just as old as Leon, probably. So he got caught up in this stuff, and, I think he was very smart, and I think that's why him just being a researcher in the original RE4, here, them connecting it with Umbrella, just seeing that picture with him and the scientist, like, I'm like, okay, this is like just cool stuff that they really added layers. And again, I don't want to, jump the gun to it far ahead, but I just want to say that like Luis is killer in this game. And he's one of my favorite elements that they added in the remake, the fact that they really did that, and made him just like, a big part of this whole village section, and the big cheese being kind of like the threat. But I am happy they didn't make him the stalker enemy, because I know people were saying that, like, oh, is the big cheese going to be, the stalker enemy? I don't think we needed another stalker enemy, you know what I mean? Like, I know, like, you could say, all right, well, the cow man or the bullshit man, whatever you want to call him, always appears, but he's, like, different enemies. He's not really, like, a stalker.
He's an enemy type.
Yeah, he just kind of appears as, like, a mini boss.
Which, by the way, that was a great addition. I guess we'll talk about that at some point.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll get
the heavy breathing and the loud noises when he chases you. It's like, wow, what did I sign up for? All right, go ahead.
Oh no, yeah, I was just saying like they did a really good job with just trying to keep the enemies the same and then added those little differences, even like the redcoats being
I
different in
think
this
that
game.
the Bullman makes it more horrifying.
Yeah,
It's more of that horror element.
and you run into him like pretty much within the first like 15 minutes. You run into him when you're getting the gear for the
And if you don't kill him, man, he'll chase you.
He'll chase you. Yeah, he's like
He
across
chased
the
me
bridge
across
and
the
shit.
bridge.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And that's the thing too. Like I like the fact that you can you could see the like how fast the enemies tend to kind of pile up and again when you're starting up you realize, okay, I got to approach these battles a little bit. It's easier when you have more equipment, but it's always like when you're starting from scratch, like those kind of challenges are always tough with those enemies, especially on the harder modes. And then when you get your knife upgraded and you have different stuff that's kind of worked in, it works. But I like the fact that even with the cowman, you can knife him. You can go up behind him and you can stab him. Like a lot of those advantages, depending on how you approach the stealth, can really benefit you, and depending on how much you upgrade your knife. And the village has a lot of, sections where you can just do that, and enemies that you can easily, like, even if you run near them, you could still just stab them and they don't even notice. So like you can really kind of know how the enemies spawn, and clearly at this point it's been a few months, people already know how to like where they spawn and how to get everything down to a certain time. But how did you guys feel about the overall like pacing of the village, and how they kind of like kind of try to just tie in the Luis and the big cheese? Like how did you guys feel about those characters in this section? Because that's really how we get kind of introduced to more characters right off the bat.
I thought the pacing was great. As far as introducing them, like, right off the bat, it was great. Because we're just... Something I like about this game, whereas the other games, there's not much backtracking at all in this game. There is very minimal backtracking.
Right, and it's your choice if you want to backtrack.
And it's just like, that's great because it's just like, let's just do this. Let's just get into it.
They put
and
the
then
extra
you keep
stuff
going,
there.
you keep going, you keep going. It's great. That's why I like this game.
Yeah, you could literally take hours, just to kind of take like the treasure map and then get all the treasures. Like the village is so rich with just a lot of stuff that
Yeah, and you just keep going. I mean, it's like RE2 Remake. I love it, but I mean, you have to backtrack a lot. But that's part of the story.
Yeah.
This one they refined a little bit, and you're just really pretty much on the go, and I like that.
Yeah,
I like that a lot.
It's the fact that they have like a lot of different layers to how you can get around now. The fact that you can go all the way back and get treasures that you missed in the very beginning. Like they made it to where like there's not like a wall that you can't get back to like in the original, where they because that exploration just wasn't there. So yeah, just like off the bat, like the village kind of being right in your face from the beginning, showing that horror, showing the characters. Like RE4, the original, had a pretty decent pace. I thought the pace kind of got a little interrupted on the island, which we'll talk about in the remake here. So I think with like the one thing it has in common with the original is that it still introduces the characters when they essentially came in, and it keeps that pace pretty even, but even longer depending on how you approach going back and getting the extra stuff, and the side missions is another addition to that. But again, we'll kind of get into some of the mechanics here. But with the village though being like the whole kind of intro, I like the fact that we still had the giant. They don't call him El Gigante now. They just call him the Giant. So whatever, the Giant.
El Gigante was actually a wrestler.
Right.
And
yeah.
someone asked them, "Hey, did you name it after him?" They're like, "We don't know what you're talking about."
They're like,
wink,
"We don't
wink.
know." And now they call him the Giant.
Yeah, which is another wrestler. So there you go. They're ripping everybody
come on.
off.
That's the thing.
It's Big Show.
Yeah, right. And
surprised we don't get a Big Show mod.
Yeah, and they they made him again, just as far as like the design, he looks more like deformed and messed up, and I like the fact that they have the his feeding cage that you can check out and read the files and stuff like that after the fact. And they kept all the bosses there. You know, they kept Del Lago, you know, the lake monster. You know, that fight is pretty much beat for beat the same, but it's definitely smoother because it just feels a lot better. You can obviously still control the boat, but you can't get off and like swim. So your boat has the health, and basically it's like you have to make sure you don't get knocked down because you cannot swim back to your boat like in the original. It's an immediate
Yeah, that's
death.
the twist. If you get knocked out, you're done.
Yeah.
But I'm happy they did that, because in the original, when you get knocked out, the way that Leon like Superman swims to the boat,
He just
is
gets
ridiculous.
like faster. Yeah. Yeah, that's like
Yeah, I mean, Frank doesn't even know this. When you get knocked out of a boat in the original, it shows him coming after you, and Leon's like
Oh my god.
swimming to the boat, and it's just like, this is stupid. Now, if he gets knocked out, it's like, that's it.
That's it. Yeah.
You're getting eaten. And that actually puts over Del Lago. What's his name? Del Lago?
yeah. Are you
It
talking
makes
about
him
the lake monster?
Yeah, it makes him look stronger, because it's like, okay, the minute this guy falls out of the boat, he's getting eaten. Like, that's it. Like, you need to stay in that boat.
And make sure you
And
don't
you
hit
need to-
the wreckage. Yeah.
Yeah, and you need to make sure that you take this monster out. Like, there's no little ha-ha, hee-hee swimming to the boat thing.
Yeah.
Like, you got one chance to kill this thing.
And I like the fact that even if you
So it makes the monster look even more stronger in this remake.
That's true. And it doesn't matter what
Yep.
your layout is, right? It's like
Yep.
you have to do it. Like, it doesn't matter if you got infinite ammo, if you had like you have to do that fight the way it is. So
Yes.
I like that, you know, just like in the original where it's like you have to do it. And they made it really like just again with the controls and everything, trying to dodge all the wreckage, like throwing the harpoons. I mean, that's all they had to do for that fight, and they kept them the same. The design's the same. The way you have to kind of move the boat is pretty much the same. The boss fights in this section leading up to the Big Cheese were, you know, very entertaining, you know, and they were just as good as they were in the original. But of course, you know, with the giant fight as well, you could also save the dog again, which wasn't a surprise. You know, I knew that the dog was going to come back. When you leave the chief's house, you hear him get caught in the trap, and you got to go to the right side and just save him. And if you save him, I've never not saved him yet because obviously I feel bad. But obviously he just doesn't show up. He doesn't help. But he does help because he bites him, and also like the wall falls on him too. Like it's a lot more. I mean, he always picked up the environment in the original as well. He would pick up the tree. He would pick up the cabin. So he does all of that here. But I like the fact that you know, you can still shoot the parasite just like in the original. So you can shoot it or you can climb, but you can do either one. If you have a stronger weapon, sometimes it's better just to shoot the parasite instead of knifing him, depending on how your knife is at the time. But yeah, just those little things, man, just are awesome. Like I just remember playing that and I was like, dude, this is already like the first part of the game, and I'm like, I can't put this down. You know, it was at that moment I was like, they are already nailing the first part of this game. And my favorite section of the original is, you know, the castle. But when I was just playing the village, I was like, this is like almost my favorite section right now. So what the hell's the next part going to be? But I know we're still kind of in the thick of the village, but I kind of wanted to talk about, I wanted to scale it back a little bit and ask you guys about how did you feel about the new an improved merchant here, because the merchant does show up in this part of the game. And I think it's a good time to kind of sprinkle that into this conversation here because they did, I think, the best job that they could have done with the merchant.
Yeah.
In terms of like adding
I like
what
this
they
one
added
better.
in here. Yeah, I was gonna say this is probably
I like
the
his
best
voice
version.
better. I like, a lot of people were like, oh, it doesn't sound like the original.
It was weird
Here's
at
the
first,
thing.
right? But we had to hear more. You know what I mean? When you
Yeah.
first hear it after years of hearing the same Australian dude, you know, talking or whatever, it's like,
This one, I think, worked out better for right now. I like the fact that he has conversations, whether you walk by or not. Even if you're running by because you're trying to get to the next section, he'll be like, I got this, and you're like, yeah, whatever. And
gun
he's-
rhymes with fun.
Like, he'll still, like, talk to you and stuff like that.
Yeah.
What I don't like is when you don't need anything, he'll be like, oh, well, next time, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, go screw off, man. But I like him better. I like his voice better. So go ahead, Frank.
I mean, I don't know the original, but I like the merchant. It's kind of funny because you're like, how the hell is this guy like surviving? Like he's just walking around here, like he seems unafflicted by stuff, and I kind of like the shroud of mystery around him. I think the character's great. He's funny. He adds like another level to things. Like it's kind of like he gives you a little bit of a break. You're buying your stuff. You're feeling a little safe. You're like, all right, I could rest. I could breathe. He's making jokes. Like it's a pretty cool thing that they have that in this game. And yeah, I mean, I don't know the original, but I like this one a lot. So
yeah, and it kind of started with the Duke, right? In terms of like the Duke having conversations. Obviously, the Duke mirrored the Merchant. There's a lot of things that I don't want to talk about Village here, but you get what I'm saying. Like they kind of use that as like, okay, this worked here. Let's try to use that because he would talk to Leon like a person, like have that conversation. He has sales. He has the side missions that you can do that gives you spinels that you can trade stuff with.
He also warns you before you're about to fight a boss, like, hey, you might want to upgrade stuff, or you might want to save or whatever. I don't know if he says something about saving, but he does warn you before you fight bosses. That's for sure.
Like the section ends, like he's like, you might want to do some anything that's like unfinished, or like might want to get some unfulfilled errands done, stuff like that, where if that section's coming to a close, you haven't done the side missions yet, the side missions will cut themselves off at a certain point if you can't go and get them done. I found myself doing them a lot just to get the reward. Obviously, like some of the spinels, you can get treasures, you can get, cases, weapon cases, attaché cases. Some of them are guns. The Red 9 attachment is behind there as well. Like a bunch of stuff gets kind of, switched out with the spinels. So that reward is there. Another thing, of course, with the Merchant is the fact that, you're upgrading that knife now. So the knife has its own upgrade tier with the durability, with the repair. How did you guys feel about the knife overall in this game? Now that we're kind of getting in the specifics of the Merchant, because obviously, like, the better knife that you get Krauser's knife, later. But you can also upgrade Leon's, RPD knife. And, man, that thing through the game was a lifesaver. In terms of the parry mechanic, the stealth kills, like, what did you guys feel about that? The knife?
I just kept picking up new knives. I only spend money on the weapons.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, so, and when I get Krauser's knife, that's when I will either upgrade that or just use it.
Okay. That's pretty cool to hear how you play it. I'm sure people take
I'll use a knife if I have to use it, but I'm not like...
You don't really care about the parry? You just kind of play normal?
The stealth mechanic was really good with the knife, and that's mostly what I use it for.
Okay. That's pretty cool.
With the cheat codes or whatever, I'll use the knife just to mess around and, attack enemies and stuff like that. But I try not to use the knife. I try to save that money for the guns and stuff like that. Go ahead, Frank.
My first playthrough, I upgraded the pistol and the knife like a lot. Like that was my go-to, the pistol and the knife for like the whole first playthrough. As I do subsequent playthroughs, and I've done, like when I play with the hand cannon and stuff, I don't touch the knife anymore. Like it's just obsolete. But that first playthrough, I relied heavily on it, and I kept repairing it, kept upgrading it, and it helped.
I do like the knife mechanics though in this game as opposed to the first. Because there's just so many different ways you could use the knife.
I like the fact that you can just break the barrels too, because in the original you always had to pull out the knife and then knife it. Obviously that was such a old school way of doing it. But
now you just kick the barrels and you're good.
Yeah.
Or boxes or whatever.
And that's really cool that, you guys kind of found your own appeal to the knife, like Perry liked the stealth kills, and then Frank, on your first couple playthroughs, you found it helpful. Because for me, I was excited to see what they were going to do. And it was smooth, man. I love the fact that we can, upgrade that. You can also get body armor as well that you can upgrade and repair, which, you did get a vest in the original 4, but here, like, they have, like, that, repair, which wasn't there before. So that's, that's cool. And then he says, like, oh, like, armor's gone, or, armor's down or depleted. Like, he says that whenever it's done. So, like, little things like that are pretty cool. And guess what? They have the armor in RE5 as well, so that will probably make a return, in that, because
a lot of mechanics from 5 are in this game.
They're throwing that stuff at you,
That was done for multiple reasons. For them to get ready for 5, and for them to tell the fans, wink, wink, like, here's where we're going.
Right, and I know we'll talk about the great Ashley Graham in a second, but I know with the merchant, the actual attachments, the weapons, the selection. I mean, all the weapons are here and more. You have the pre-order weapons as well, the Sentinel 9. You have the Western Custom, aka the Terminator shotgun, was in there as well. And we'll talk about unlockables later, of course, but those unlockable weapons are there. And I just like the fact that they kind of dropped, just like in the original, they dropped those updated weapons because the merchant would say, oh, I got something new in, and you would be like, okay, cool, what do you got? And then it would show you the weapon of that section that you got. So the variety's there, but the one thing that they also added that's completely new is the weapon charms, or the case charms, rather. Sorry, the case charms that can apply for weapons or ammo drops or crafting. The crafting element obviously is here, so it's really easy just to craft stuff in the crafting menu. And the different attaché cases, have obviously different sizes, but also different, you can get more red herb drops on one, or if you use the silver case or the black case, like there's different ones. So the charms was a cool thing. Because I love the, the bottle caps in the original, you got money for doing them, and then you got the bottle caps, but it didn't really do anything for the gameplay. It just gave you money, which, yes, you could spend for the game, so that would help. But, like, now having to attach 3 little charms on there, that was a really cool thing that they added, and you can save on upgrades on the knife, or you can save, a percentage off of the rocket launcher. You can get a rare one. You can get, if you have the gold, depending on how you did on the target practice and stuff like that. Did you guys mess with that at all? I thought that was really a cool redone section that I really
added
enjoyed.
them to the case because when I played the game on normal, I kept running out of ammo.
Right.
No matter what I did, even crafting. So I added those on. I mean, it helped a little bit for me, but they do help. It does help. I didn't think it helped enough, but that's me.
Yeah, some things didn't work, though. Yeah, I agree. Like, some of the stuff I felt like it didn't, like the one to let Leon run faster, like, I felt like he barely ran any faster. It was like 5% faster or 10%.
Yeah, he runs like an old lady in this game.
He definitely
That's
runs
one of my
different.
gripes.
Yeah, he definitely runs different. Now, again, he does the roundhouse kicks, he does the suplexes, like, he's experienced, but, man, some of that running can get you can't make that faster unless you're using some kind of cheat code, right? It's like you're pretty much dealing with Leon. He has more of a tactical run in this, but he also kind of it's a different movement. And I kind of mentioned that in my review. Like, he moves a little bit different, obviously, because he's supposed to be more experienced, and he's like, it's a lot more of a faster pace game. Where Remake, it's a lot of like holding the gun with the flashlight, which he still does, but it's just more of like in a more experienced way.
The flashlight in this game,
himself.
The way that he holds it's more like Resident Evil 2 Remake style. It's like kind of a throwback.
Yeah,
because
like
he's
when
still
you're in the
at
cave
the end
and stuff,
Because the way he holds it, he still holds it like a police officer.
Yeah,
and even though he's like a government official now, he's still like using this police officer way of holding the flashlight. It's hard to explain, but you get that vibe. You get that throwback, like RE2 Remake. You're like, I can't believe we're here playing 4 Remake when we just played 2 Remake, and he's holding the flashlight like he's still in 2 Remake.
Oh, yeah.
I know that sounds crazy, the way I just said it, but people playing the game, they'll get it. It's kind of a little throwback to RE2 Remake when he's got the flashlight. That's all I'm trying to say.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Just
and
the way that he holds it and approaches everything.
Yeah,
but I do like the mechanic. I think it was great.
I really tried hard when I was getting the rocket launcher to get that charm, and I just couldn't get it. But, I did mess around with that for a while, and I like that idea that you're going to get a little added bonus. I don't know if it's worth the amount of time you have to sink in.
It does take
like
a
you
while.
were saying.
Yeah,
yeah, like it doesn't add enough benefit for the amount of time. So I haven't messed with it. After a couple times, I just skipped those little, the target shooting and stuff like that. But at first I did put some time into it, and I like the idea of it, but I just don't think it's worth it for the most part. Like later on, after you've played through it a couple times.
Once you've done it, you can kind of get spent on it and just be like, yeah, I'm good on that. You know, you already got everything you need, and by the time you have stuff unlocked, you don't really, those charms, you're not even going to feel them not being on your case. You know what I mean? Like you can have them like what you have on, but it's not really going to make much of a difference, like you said, by that point. But yeah, I thought that the fact that they added the attaché cases and you can actually send stuff to storage, like typewriter storage, that was a really cool addition, because in the original RE4, what was in your attaché case was in your attaché case. Like that was it.
But you know what? What I don't like about the storing thing is you can only store like weapons. You can't store items.
No.
So I got all these bullets and aid sprays and stuff, and I can't store them.
That is a good point. They didn't really make it to where you could store. You have to either craft what you have or sell or get rid of stuff to make space.
Because on Steam, I'm playing with cheat codes, but I have the whole cases full.
Right.
And I can't disregard all that stuff because when I play it without cheat codes, I need that stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm playing the game, and whenever I go to pick something up, it keeps opening the case that's full. And I was like, stop it.
Yeah.
I can't. There's an issue with this game. It's on the island. When you have to jump through the windows, the 2 or 3 windows, to get away from the laser beams. There's ammo right by the window, and I can't jump through the window because it's still the A button. So I have to pick up that ammo, and my case is full. So I have to have it in the side thing and disregard it, and then I'm able to jump through the window. So, yeah, that's kind of annoying. You can't store everything, just weapons. But it's good you can store weapons because you can get all the weapons.
Yeah. Yeah, they definitely I think they were trying to kind of make it to where you can, I guess, store. You have to still craft the resources, but I guess I don't know what thought really went into that, like why, because in every other storage ever you could put everything in there. So that is a good point to bring out, like why they did that.
Yeah.
And like the variety, at least in the weapons and what they have, is always fun. And you can find weapons too, which is really cool. You can find the Red 9 on the boat in the middle of the water. Did you guys do a lot of the side missions, or were you just kind of did you go back and fight the dog, or find the golden egg on the island that is definitely nodding to RE5, the chicken?
Yeah, I found the golden egg.
The whole boat segment is all the marshlands from RE5. They're kind of peppering that in. That was a nice.
I don't remember fighting the dog.
You have to go back to the village to fight the dog, and he's stronger. That was one of the side missions. It's like it's like the parasite dogs, but he's like a specific one, like a mini boss. They always kind of.
Yeah, I never did that. I didn't even know that was a thing.
Yeah, they have little achievements to kind of do each one in each section, kind of like same thing with the treasures. But they're really cool, to go back. There's one for each kind of section that makes you go back and do that, and it's just cool though. You get the spinels and stuff like that, but. Or you got to hunt the fish, in the water, little things. But that reward is cool. Again, just having that option just makes it cool. The medallions aren't just in 2 sections; they're everywhere, just in different little spots. Or
right,
the exterminator, where you got to kill the 3 rats on the ground. There's little things that
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, different sections. There's 3 rats, and it'll be pest control, and then you got to kill 3 of them. Turn it in, and they get the reward, which is cool. The merchant, just very well done, and the weapons in this game, again, they did not disappoint. The Red 9 I do like better in the original. That's my favorite.
The Red 9's more powerful in the original.
It
feels like a water gun in this game. I don't know why.
Yeah, the Matilda is my favorite. The SG is really good, fully upgraded. I did that my professional run. But the Blacktail is awesome. That's a pretty good weapon upgraded. But the Sentinel 9, even though it is deluxe weapon, that's a really good handgun. But that with the laser sight and the SG with the laser sight, I ended up using. The Matilda is the best handgun, but it does drain ammo. It drains ammo, but it is the best handgun, I think. It's just bop 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 dead, bop 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 dead. But then your ammo is completely drained. But I mean, it kills. It just rips through people. And it's it's just cool to see it back because that is from RE2, the Matilda. So all the
They
way back
also
to the
put
original.
the Joker gun in here from RE5.
Oh yeah,
the long Magnum gun.
yeah, the broken butterfly.
Yeah.
Yeah, they brought that back, and again, it's something where, the stuff you can find versus the stuff you can buy or buy on sale. Like, I just like that, But before we move any forward in terms of like, the sections of the game that I want to also kind of chat with you guys about, like, let's get on the topic of, another mechanic. If we're gonna get into the gameplay, we have to talk about Ashley Graham. And, we obviously meet Ashley in the church, just like in the original. You have to fight your way through, a couple boss fights. And then when you finally find her, she's in the church, just like in the original. But this time you have to, actually sneak out of the church, which is interesting because Sadler isn't in there. It's not like Sadler just shows up and has this speech in front of you and then you guys just jump out the window. Instead, they kind of keep him reserved. And you can actually go and, sneak your way out, but obviously you have to fight. But with Ashley, they switched it up a little bit. I mean, it's no surprise that, you can't just have her sit in one spot anymore. You have to either tell her to spread out or she, stays with you, but like, she could still just get grabbed just as easy. You can't really have her hide. There are a couple lockers, but it's very few and far between. But the one thing that I mentioned in my review, and I'll kind of elaborate more on here, because I had to say my piece in the review without getting like, I didn't want to go on like an Ashley like rant. But, some old things never change and some things just stay the same forever. And I think with Ashley, I love what they did with her character. I don't have a problem with them writing her the way that she's written. I don't have a problem with like how they, portrayed her. But I think some of the mechanics and her getting in the way is still happening. And it didn't change much, even though they said, oh, okay, we're going to do the Resident Evil 6 thing where she doesn't have a health bar. She gets hit, you can pick her up, but it's like a one hit down, but then she can obviously get down like, a certain amount of times or get carried away still. And that's what's also annoying too, is because if she just ends up like near a door, like in the original, she would stay in one spot. You knew that, okay, if they were going to grab her, I knew that I probably screwed up, put her in a bad spot, and she got grabbed. But here it's like she's moving around, and just in that little church section on the harder modes, you can be like, uh-oh, like this can be a little bit of a pain in the ass,
There's several issues with the mechanic here. The biggest one is she runs in front of you while you're trying to shoot.
Yes,
like,
that happens a lot.
You're in front of me. You get behind me. Don't get in front of me. And then when you say you go to like switch a gun, she'll get up real quick and then get back down. It's like, stop.
Yeah, because she's constantly in like this crouched like position, but then she'll go back up, and it's like, and again, this is chapter.
And then while you're shooting, she'll just get up and run to the left or the right, and you're like, "What are you doing? I'm shooting." Now, when they grab her, you're trying to not kill her, so you're trying to angle the gun to shoot the dude that's got her.
And she's hanging over his shoulder,
and she's like, and you're like, "Where do I go?" And then the guy walks away with her. And then if you shoot and it kills her, it's like, come on, man. So, yes, that mechanic is still flawed and it needs to be fixed for the next Resident Evil 4 remake in another 20 years from now.
Yeah, right.
So there you go.
I mean, that's the thing, too. Like, I think on the harder modes is when I started to notice, for me, when it was really a big problem. But then, you notice, like, okay, like, this is, chapter 5, right? And now it becomes that, that whole Ashley mechanic is now in place. Now she can go and grab, ladders that you can't reach, or she can, she does help in like a section or two. She does actually help in terms of in combat. Obviously, she doesn't have anything on her in terms of like a weapon or anything like that. So, but they did pull an RE6 where they were like, all right, this is like, she doesn't have a health bar. You can't increase her health bar, because in the original, she had a health bar, and if you use yellow herbs on her, it increased her health meter as well, which was a whole different thing, but you had to play through it like a couple times just to do that, Frank, what did you think about Ashley, this being like your first Ashley experience here?
it got frustrating. There was a lot of times when I was frustrated with the mechanic. Very clunky. I feel like it was strange how they're very slow to like pick her up, or she's slow to get up. But then once they have her, they're like beeline away from you. It's like, yo, you couldn't pick her up. It took you all this time to lift her up, but you just beeline away by the time you realize it. There were times when there's no way they should have been able to get her, I feel like, and they just like somehow were able to get her. And like Perry said, when you're trying to shoot, especially if you're playing through with the hand cannon or something, you got to try to aim for their legs. Like, she's just right in the way all the time. She's in the way when she's running in front of you. She's in the way when you're shooting. It's just annoying. I mean, she's really good at unlocking doors.
No police officer says, "Hey, run in front of me."
Right.
They always say, "Get in back of me. Get behind me."
Yeah,
So,
and if you command her to do that, she shouldn't just like run in front of like where the Ganados are or close to them. And like I understand, like, you know, the AI is gonna spawn how it spawns, but damn, man, like I don't know. It's not like she's not written better, and I like her in this game, but man, just because she doesn't have a health bar doesn't mean like it's less annoying.
And they recorded one scream.
Yeah, the same screen.
Or at least they put it. Or at least they
again.
put in one screen.
I don't know if you saw the highlight I put up, but she basically got, you know, completely busted on the last playthrough where she just stood there, and she was just standing there, and she had to turn the valve. There, like, so two valves were turned, and I turned one on the bottom. It's the water room in the castle, and she literally just stood there, and there was one enemy left. She was just like staring around. And I'm like, Ashley, turn the crank. And she's just standing there looking at me, and I can't do anything. And basically, I let the one enemy, the last guy, pick her up and get her out of the bug. And then she went down, and then like I killed him. Then she turned the valve. But if that enemy wasn't there, I would have had to just restart. Like,
Yeah.
And that happened like a few weeks ago, like in the recent update. But like weird shit like that happened after the fact. You know, after my initial playthrough. So some Ashley bugs have happened here and there. I've also had like bodies randomly spring up and just disappear, like randomly when I kill them. But that's a whole different thing. But yeah, I thought the Ashley mechanic, obviously it's a crucial element to RE4 because it's the whole escort mission thing. But I think they at least split you up enough still in this remake, just enough to where it's not that annoying the whole time. Mostly on the harder modes when you don't have a lot of, you know, resources and stuff like that to kind of get a hold of the situation. But I still like Ashley Graham as a character. I'll talk more about that as we get through the sections. But like, you know, I just thought the mechanic suffered some of the same problems the original did.
Can I just say, the catapult section is unbearable.
Oh man,
that's the one part where I was like,
brutal.
I can't do this.
That is just brutal.
She'll get hit and she'll sit down, and you have to lift her up. It's like, what
can't.
are we doing here? We're trying to get through this.
Yeah, the best thing to do is to shoot the when you go up the stairs, you can see the little thing to shoot through the wall, so the cannon's already up. So you could just snipe it, shoot it, and then it goes all the way up to the top, and then you could circle around and then jump on it. So it's like, it makes it faster. Because that's a pain in the ass. It's a cool section, but it's like, damn, like, not when you have, you know, Ganados constantly trying to grab Ashley while you're trying to make your way up these stairs. Like, it was just pretty crazy. But yeah, like, you know, in terms of like, you know, Ashley helping you, you know, get into different sections of the house and stuff like that. You're able to get into the attic of the Chief's house, and you're able to find out a bunch of stuff in terms of like, you know, more of the files that were kind of left behind, and more treasures and stuff. So they did kind of add that in there as well, where she does help you get treasures and different things that you can boost her in. You know, the whole RE5 boost thing, RE6 did it as well. Helping you get on the other side of doors, stuff you can miss if you completely don't turn around. There's some sections where you're like, okay, I have to come back with Ashley at some point and do this, and they reward you for that. So that's cool. But in terms of like, you know, kind of getting into, because at this point, 5-6 chapters in, when we're well, established, we're getting used to the gameplay, we're getting used to the mechanics, and then we have the Bitteros Mendez fight, or AKA Big Cheese fight in the barn, that's on fire, and this fight was a little bit different. It's similar, but it is a little bit different because there's that whole section where he's like throwing shit at you, which can be very annoying if you don't know how to dodge. But the build up to this was kind of cool. He drops down, he has the trench coat, and he chases you. And if you're not fast enough, he'll just fucking he'll grab Ashley and pretty much walk away with her. Again, beeline it to the door. So they kind of had him like lingering, and then he chases you. He pretty much corners you into the section. Leon shoots the bridge off and stuff like that, and then you have to, get ready to fight him. But they didn't change his design much. He still transforms. He has the spine. He's very, you have to shoot him.
You know who this guy looks like now? In the original, he looks like Uncle Phil from Fresh Prince.
Yeah.
Okay. In this one, he looks like Jason Ronald from Xbox.
Oh no!
The designer, the guy that made the series. He's got the long beard and everything. He looks exactly like Jason Ronald.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's like a cool design, you know what I mean? They didn't have to change him much, and the mutation looks really cool, and the parasite looks.
Isn't his eyeball used as like a key in the original game?
It is. That's something they didn't.
Because I got it and I saved it the whole game. I was like, bro, I'm at the end. I didn't use the eyeball.
Yeah.
So now the eyeball is worth like a ton of money.
Yeah.
Like 10 grand or something.
Yeah, for a boss at that point in the game, it's a good amount of treasure. But he has that the section where he kind of attaches himself to the ceiling and he's throwing like pieces of wood at you, and then he throws the barrels that you can shoot, and you kind of have to dodge.
I don't like those because he throws the barrels, and a lot of times you can't escape getting hit.
It's hard. Yeah, you have to shoot them, and even that it's hard because he like moves it really quick, and then he like throws one.
Well, not the barrels, but the wood.
Yeah,
the wood pallets.
You have to constantly
you can't dodge
move.
that.
You have to constantly just move Leon like left, right, left, like.
Yeah, but if you don't, like, you're gonna get hit at least once, and that's a pain.
And then even if you climb to the top, on the second level, when you still can before like the fire, consumes most of the map. Yeah, it's like some people said it's easier to do it from up top down below, but I mean, I think the fight here, I usually use either a Magnum or just like use the semi-auto at this point, or if you can use a really good shotgun for like up close, because I think if you drop down from the top, it does more damage with the knife. Like if you jump, because he does that, apparently it's like more impactful. So little things like that are cool. They added the whole element of the Big Cheese kind of being in charge of that section, and they kind of ended off the village section with a good 3 boss fights. So you have you got the El Gigante, you got the Del Lago, and then you have the Big Cheese to wrap it up. So it's not a bad fight, and like you said, they kind of switched up the key because there's no key, because originally his eye was the main gate to the castle, which is always very strange.
Right,
and
that's why I held on to it. I was like, "When am I using this thing?"
Yeah, it's just kind of
like
cool
never.
Because there's a lot of things that they again didn't have to really connect him with, like Luis and his grandfather, you know what I mean? But they kind of made that connection here where like he was around and he was normal, but they all kind of gave into Sadler's, parasite plans and his cult plans. And that's kind of when everything went screw up with the village. It's like a village of people that actually took care of each other and hung out with each other by campfires and stuff like that, and now it's like everything has gone completely corrupt. And I think for him just kind of being, the one that's kind of in charge of the section, just getting into how, crazier it gets, because, the next section is going to be kind of like a whole different kind of experience, which is like definitely my favorite section of the game. But I mean, overall, as far as like the village as a whole and kind of like how much they packed in. I mean, man, they didn't cut anything. The exploration was awesome. The gameplay at this point was like on fire in terms of like how it was like just throwing everything at you. You're getting used to the action. You're getting used to the combat. The village gets a 10 out of 10 for me.
It holds up better than the original. People are gonna hate me for saying that, but
I don't think that's an unpopular
opinion.
It great. You know what I mean? I don't think people will hate you at all for saying that because you're just being honest. And I think, again, like what we kept saying all the time.
Look, I've been there since RE1, okay?
Right.
I played RE1 in 96 all the way through now, okay? So, my opinion is I like this version of 4 better than the original. For a multitude of reasons. I mean, if you have a GameCube or something, you know, the original 4 is good. I was going to say 6. The original 4 is good.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I'm moving with the times here. I want to play a newer version of these games, and I think they're doing a fantastic job.
And that's awesome because, you know, and that's kind of why I wanted to open this review up into a podcast discussion like this so we can kind of get all of our feelings out there in terms of like, because again, it's not like this new game syndrome where like, oh, we're just riding the hype. It's like, no, we actually had a lot of time to play it, review it, stream it, talk about it amongst each other as well. And it's been 2 months later and it's like, now we can kind of really sink in like all the feelings on this. And it was always a positive experience playing, you know, the remakes in recent years for me, also because I'm working on content about it, but also I always love opening up that discussion and like the stuff we agree on or disagree or whatever. It's all part of that initial discussion that makes it fun. And I think with this being, you know, the most, I guess like ambitious remake because it is RE4, you know, how they tried to present just this first section of the game. Man, I mean, again, they kind of just wanted you to peel all the layers off kind of one step at a time and like really let it sink in. And like, you know, whether you played through it fast or you know, slowed down and did everything, like you're still going to get a great experience no matter what. Or even if you just ignored the stealth, there's people that are just like, screw it, I don't care about stealth, I'll just kill everything. It's all good.
They made the village feel expansive in a way, even though it's technically, you know, the game's like linear and there's closed areas, but you still felt like the village was pretty big. There's a lot of different areas, and you kind of get a sense of how these people were living. There was like the fish farm and stuff. Like, it's just kind of cool, all the different sections they threw in there. But I really like this part. You know, this, like I said, this is like what sucked me right into it. Just the whole vibe of the village. And I love the part where you're fighting El Gigante and the dog comes back and the lightning flash. It's like, that's like the best thing ever. You're just like, man,
dramatic
this
intro.
Is awesome. Yeah. But I really like this section a lot. I thought it was great. I mean, it really set the tone of the whole rest of it for you.
Yeah, and I think and it's cool to hear kind of what your takeaways were being. This is like your first just time ever experiencing it, and the village being, you know, because a lot of people, they should know at this point, and I know you know this, Frank, obviously, because me and Perry have told you, but like the whole like 3-section thing, or like, you know, obviously what Village did, they kind of just looked at RE4 and they're like, okay, let's just take that template and like do it again. And then with this, it's like each section just feels like it's filled, and that's the one thing that Village kind of felt like it was a little bit lacking, because it was lacking with the story, or some sections felt filled and then others felt like a little hollow. Obviously they divvied it up in houses, where here it's like more like sections of this part of Spain. And I think that a lot of people will have their favorites, but I really think that, you know, with how they handled the writing here, and even the files that they placed around, like you said, it kind of gives you a sense of like what was once there. And you can kind of like, even for someone like you to kind of say that too, like seeing the village for the first time and not knowing so much about like the full on history, you can still get a sense of what it was like. And that's what you want in a remake. You don't want it to be more vague and more like, you know, just confusing. So I think that was a good approach, and it was cool to hear, you know, kind of reaction to that for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I really thought it was cool.
They kept Sadler well reserved, because if you play the original,
he's in it all the time.
He's in it all the time. He's the one who, is in the cutscene, and his minions eject Leon with the Las Plagas, and then he's, appears in the church, and then it's like, you're like, what the hell? So here, you're going through each section, and he's trying to just appear, more of a threat. Some people will say, no, he's not as of a threat, or he is. That's up for, I guess, however you want your Sadler, your Osmond Sadler. But going into the castle, though,
who's Keenan Sadler?
It's his family. It's his family tree.
Keenan and Kel.
It's Keenan and Kel.
Keenan Sadler, get out of here. All right, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just saying, like, we before we get to more Sadler, now it's time to get into Salazar's castle. So Ramon Salazar is obviously the other.
He is the 5th Golden Girl.
Yes, he's the 5th Golden Girl. And of course we also, I wanted to mention, because we'll talk more about Ada a bit in the castle. But yes, Ada also had the cutscene with Luis, where she meets up with Luis in that little section. But we'll talk a little bit more about her in the castle, because she reappears again. The castle, my favorite section of the original, and this is my favorite section of the remake. I mean, holy shit, this is awesome. I mean, they couldn't have, portrayed this thing in I don't know, any other, like, it's very, like, it's dark, it's dingy. They have elements where, like, again, the lighting just wasn't there in the original to really do its justice. Like, here it's like you have such a, just from the screenshots and, like, the trailers, I remember saying, like, man, like, this is already just taking the RE village castle, like Lady D's castle, and just blowing it out of the water already. And like, that looked good in the RE engine. Like, it didn't look bad, but it was a very short-lived castle. Like, this whole section is very, very large in scale. And throw that in with the side missions and everything like that, and you get more weapons. You obviously have access to more stuff as you get through this. And Leon and Ashley meet Salazar, and he's essentially pretty much just telling him to give in to the demands and stuff like that, because Leon's waiting for a helicopter. And unlike in the original, where you have to you wait for the helicopter and then it gets shot down, here it's just the rain comes in, and Hunnigan's like, the rain delay, so it can't happen, because I guess they thought the helicopter getting shot down like more than once was probably a little just ridiculous. So they were like, all right, let's just make a rain delay. The one thing you notice about this game, especially with the villagers, is that they throw the parasites at you right away, right? And obviously they shake on the ground and you can stop them from turning, but it's sometimes impossible to always catch them. And on the harder modes, they turn faster, so it's harder to, like, stab them while they're down, or just shoot them while they're down. And the castle still kind of keeps with that theme, where now you have the cultists, and which is cool, you know what I mean? I love the cultist enemies, but you also have the new parasites as well. You have the one-hitter parasites, and then you also have the ones that attach to, the dead Ganados, and attach to their brain. They can jump off, the spider ones. That can, take over the brain, which is going back to the old origins of the parasite, which is what they actually used before, where it can actually attach to a host and take over. So they kind of brought that in a little bit, which is really cool with the Ganados there. But yeah, the castle's my favorite section of this game, and I think this is when shit really gets real, because this is the part of the game where you start seeing the Las Plagas take effect on Leon and Ashley big time. You know what I mean? And I think it's a lot more serious and a lot more dramatic in this, just the way that they were able to kind of portray the seriousness of it all. And I think Ashley still kind of runs away, like, scared, not knowing what's going to happen. But it's done in a lot more, like, convincing way. Going through this for the first time, how they would react compared to how Leon would react. But overall, like, the overall introduction, like, of Salazar kind of being that, obviously, yes, he has the the minions with him as well, which we'll talk about, because the castle does have a variation of enemies and different enemies that come in. and I love the fact that we actually kind of get a hint at what may be coming around the corner in a way, something they didn't do in the original, so they did change a little bit. There are minor adjustments to the castle here, little things here and there, little rooms that are changed. They did cut out the lava room with the statues. Perry, I don't know if you remember that from the original. They did cut that out with the pieces to the door, because now it's like animal heads or animal pieces, so they kind of switched that around a little bit.
This castle was fantastic. It was very long. It was broken up into several sections. It made sense. It really did. I like the fact that Weapon 11 is chained up downstairs. And then you get to the part, which I call the Unreal Tournament part, where you have 2 Weapon 11s chained up in a room and all these cult guys walking around. And you got to get rid of those 2 Weapon 11s because you got to get the unicorn horn from both of them. That's crazy. That addition made the game just... Again, this game just adds more horror aspects to this actual game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas the original, you had the cultists, you had all that stuff, but this mixes it up. This adds some horror. That Weapon 11 guy, he's scary.
Yeah, the Garrador.
And to add 2 of them in the room with a bunch of cult guys, like... And you can't get through that door unless you knock out these guys, like, completely.
Yeah, that section is very much harder than it was in the original.
Oh, yeah.
The Garradors are awesome. The Freddy Krueger claws, obviously. But just his introduction, like just seeing him in the basement with the chains and the bodies hanging, and like it's just like you said, it amps up the horror. It's a darker Resident Evil 4, no doubt. Even if people were trying to say, oh, it kind of looks like this or that, but it's like, no, like the village was just the beginning. And like Frank said, like even for him, like that was a really good, like, okay, this is kind of what to expect. But now the castle's like, okay, we're going to show you even more layers of the enemies that, because you have the Navistadors, which are the bugs that now are like camouflage and like actually like mess with you. And like, obviously they had camouflage before, like they would turn invisible, but now they actually turn different colors to their environments, which is completely new.
Right.
So they also make them, threatening and stuff like that. The one thing that I like about this whole part of the game is because it really goes even deeper into Salazar's, history. Frank, what did you think about the castle section, just like starting off before we kind of get into the thick of it, in terms of like, the difference in scale that it was kind of presenting compared to the village?
Well, I love like castles and stuff like that, so immediately this was like my favorite section. Just walking around and seeing all the like crazy stuff. This is where I think the graphics shined. Like even on PC, on Xbox, like the reflections in the floor, the different surfaces in the metal. It's like wow, like everything really popped in this section. I like the cultist enemies. I thought they were pretty cool. The red guy with the lantern and stuff like that was pretty nice. The puzzles were pretty good, not too hard in this section. Pretty self-explanatory. But I think this was my favorite section as well, just because I love the castle aesthetic. And I have to say, I literally was laughing when I beat Salazar and he dropped the lip rouge.
Oh yeah,
like come on, like this guy's such a. Like,
and that goes for a lot of money too.
Yeah, but that was funny to me. But yeah, I love this section. Very, very good. Still felt big, even though it was technically one castle. Still felt huge. So
I also like the way they use the statue in this too, the Salazar statue, where you can like shoot the back of the head and stop the flame from coming out. It doesn't like chase
I didn't even know that until the other day when I was playing.
Yeah, it's like little things.
And
like
by
that
the way,
cool.
That looks like the statue that chases you in the original.
It's literally the
4.
same one. Like,
yeah, it's like they
crazy.
took the same like the same textures and everything and just threw it in this game.
Yeah, and it worked out the way they did it. Better than chasing you, And the lift section is pretty much the same,
When the robot chased you in the original, it was so hokey.
It was. It was.
It's like, dude, really? You're gonna?
I don't blame
send
them
a huge
for
freaking
changing
robot after this guy.
I don't blame them for changing that. Same thing with the lava room. I'm like, I never really cared for the lava room anyway, and like you're in there for like 5 seconds anyway. Once you know who to shoot, you just shoot the guys on the side and they just fall down, and you're like, all right. in the original anyway. But no, in terms of like, I mean, the fact that obviously you have a separation of Ashley in this as well for a little bit, but just exploring and being able to, see the maze again. I mean, the maze looked awesome, even though it is annoying and you got to deal with the dogs and stuff like that. It looks awesome. You got to drop all the flags and stuff. You have to do a lot of stuff that, is similar to getting like, pieces or the 3 pieces or, doing one thing in another room to get, one piece, like sitting down at the dinner table, ringing the bell, or it's, defeating the redcoats. Speaking of the cultists, obviously I was mentioning they have this new thing now with the redcoats being, pretty much the controller of the parasites when they're in a room. So the guy would just yell like, "Oh, las plagas," and then basically, he makes them form the parasites. If you don't take them out in time, that room is going to be pretty much a lot harder to take out. So I like those little things that they added where, like, instead of the red coat in the original, they were just red coats. Sometimes you would see them at rituals, but they didn't really have anything, like, special about them. They were harder, don't get me wrong. But in this, they were like, okay, let's make it, like, where he has the staff and, like, he can control them and stuff. So anytime you see him, you're like, oh, God, not him again,
Well, not only does he cause more trouble with everyone else, but you have to remember something, and we'll talk about this when, you get to the clock tower. When that guy does his little ritual thing, because Leon got injected, Leon's having, like, his head's hurting him too.
That starts happening, yeah.
That adds another layer of, fear into the game, I guess.
Yeah, because he holds his head.
It's fear or suspense.
Yeah,
more like suspense.
He's like holding his head, and you're just like, Leon, I gotta move. Like, what the hell? And it's like the longer you don't take him out.
Yeah, because there's people jumping on there. We'll get to that part later, but
yeah,
Leon's in the middle of battle, and when this guy's trying to command everyone else, you're getting screwed up.
Yep.
It reminds me of the mechanic that they were going to have for RE5, where the sun was going to make Chris dehydrated.
Yeah.
And it was going to hamper his combat. They ended up removing that mechanic.
They took it out, yeah.
Wait, they might bring it back. You don't know now.
You never know.
But it reminds me of that.
We also do get Leon's interaction with Ada, finally face to face, which is a little bit different. She doesn't throw down the flashbang glasses and she or tries to disappear out the window. It's more just kind of like, all right, so, you're working with Wesker or that kind of thing. But like with this, it's more just like, I can't really trust you. I know you're up to no good, because the last time he sees her, he thinks she's dead, but he's already aware of her, being alive. He already knows she's alive.
Because he was briefed.
Yeah.
So he knows everything.
So he's briefed on everything. So like, again, I like their interaction this time around in terms of like, it's
more professional.
Right.
He's not so much a simp anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which I like. Because
Right.
it's like, okay, like, I'm over this girl already.
Yeah, and he's like, dude, I'm already like in the middle of this mission, and you're gonna come out of here like, what are you doing here? So yeah, he's like already distracted by all this stuff, and that's the one thing about Leon is that like, he is a lot more just serious. Obviously, he has the B movie lines in this as well, but it's like like Nighty Night Nights, like shit like that. But it's like he's still serious as hell, and he's a lot more experienced. I mean, even in the section where before you split off with Ashley, and he's like in the cage, and he's like dodging behind the dude and like using him as a shield, shit like that is just cool to see. Like little different dynamics of Leon, where it's not too over the top. He's not flipping over lasers, but he's like still doing action shit, which is another thing they cut, thankfully, in this game. But that's
they cut all the hokey stuff out.
Yeah, that's like
which is good. That's what you want. You want to streamline it. You want to make it realistic.
Yeah, that's common.
As realistic as you can, considering the story. But
yeah, it's everything's over the top at the end of the day. But like for Resident Evil, to a certain extent, but it's like you said, it's just streamlining it. Streamlining is like really the main theme here throughout this remake, is like how they really connected everything and made it seem a lot more smooth with how it goes back and tries to fill in a lot of this stuff that you wouldn't have even known was there in the story, or obviously how they kind of set this thing up. Now with Ada, obviously there's still more that we'll see on her side. Now they obviously haven't talked about separate ways yet, but we aren't dumb. We know that they're probably going to do separate ways. So we'll see a lot more of her in the castle, in the village. We'll probably see her with Luis as well. But that's the one thing that I liked about, this section here is the fact that we do get more of Luis kind of opening up to Leon at this part of the game, and one thing that you have to do after you deal with, the Vertigo, which I loved this fight in the cat. I mean, this is probably one of my favorite fights. I do love Vertigo. We don't have U3 in the castle anymore. At least that's what the they call it, codename it, but its BOW name is U3, and a lot of people were upset about that. But I think we'll get that in separate ways. You know what I mean? But I think a lot of people might jump the gun and say, well, it should have been in there. But to be honest, Vertigo was a really good fight. Going underneath the ground, obviously like Leon falling, when he's trying to get Ashley back and he falls, he hangs onto the chain he doesn't have a Batman grappling hook this time. He has to grab onto the chain and before he hits the spike pit, and he has to deal with Vertigo while you wait for the elevator. And I still think it's terrifying as all hell. Vertigo's really fast in those tunnels. And that was a real big highlight for me, honestly. I really enjoyed that in the castle. Just because, building up to that point, you're like, damn, when are we going to get, to see Vertigo? And, I didn't see anything of him, obviously, before I played. Really tried to just, I knew they were going to keep him the same. In terms of design, I didn't think he was going to look that much different, but he just seems more menacing. And you have to knock, you have to hit, in the original, you had to knock down the nitrogen cans. Now it's like you have to hit this button and he has to stand under it. And sometimes if you don't do enough damage or have enough, you can spend all of them and not kill him. So you have to wait for the elevator, or you could just shoot him raw without that and he'll eventually die. But he was an awesome boss fight. He definitely was a highlight for me. What did you guys think of that boss fight overall? The Vertigo fight.
Well, I mean, it's kind of weird because you have to go to those specific spots to get the what is it, the frozen air or whatever the hell?
Yeah, the nitrogen shit. Yeah,
the nitrogen. He's hard to kill without it. I don't even know if you can kill him without it unless you have the rocket launcher.
You can, yeah. It takes a while, but it's like you have to pretty much wait for the elevator if you don't think you have enough ammo. I think the one playthrough I was like, I just have to leave. I don't even have enough.
But the nitrogen runs out too.
It does.
And then he could still be alive, and it's like, man, what am I doing? So a lot of times I did what I could, and I basically ran circles around him until the elevator showed up. I mean, what can you do?
Yeah, I mean, and it's scary because he runs really quick and he does the tail whip and shit, and you can try to dodge him and you can try to parry him. It's really hard. But he's intimidating as all hell. And I like the fact that it's a little bit different of a boss fight, just trying to have to get his weak spot underneath there. I try to hit it, and then when he gets stunned, you can kick him. It's because the melee does a lot of damage, so I'd kick him and then try to hit him until it runs out, and that would kind of help. What did you think of the fight, Frank? In the sewers.
I hate in games when you're being chased. I'm like, oh my god. So that was crazy
you
for
just
me.
Hear
I
his
was
feet,
just
just moving
yeah, and I didn't know what to do at first with the nitrogen, so I figured it out, obviously. But I remember I just kept running until the elevator came, and then when I finally got the rocket launcher, I made sure, I'm killing this guy. I'm getting my revenge on him, and I just blew him away with the rocket launcher, and I was like, yeah, I did it.
Yeah.
I beat my nightmare.
Yeah.
But this was a really suspenseful fight. I really liked this a lot.
Yeah, they did a good job, man, with the fights just kind of retaining what they were, and they're still fun. It's not like, oh, this is the same. It's not like, no, it's like this is the same concept of the fight, but it's completely different with the new mechanics and the knife and the upgrades and everything that's updated with the gameplay mechanics and features. Everything that they redefined with said mechanics and with the gameplay, it just feels very responsive and snappy as you get through each of like these sections and bosses. Like it just feels like they got the action and that horror kind of balanced very well in this, and the style of combat is clearly a lot more action because there's a lot more, quick slots and grenades and crafting and stuff like that. So as you get deep into the game like this, it becomes more apparent of like, okay, like these are my like 4 or 5 weapons that I'm using. Obviously, if you have unlockables, you have infinite ammo and that stuff too. Or if you use, a trainer or whatever, however you got to play it. But I like the fact that you can kind of, by the middle of the game, you can kind of like figure out what you want to use and what you don't want to use. Like guns you can retire or guns that you can upgrade that you want to focus all your money on. That's what you kind of get into when you reach like this part of the game where you're trying to get all the treasures, get all the money you can, like try to conserve what you can with the with selling stuff or knowing when a gun is done, you can just sell it to get 300K for the gun and then try something new. Little things like that, because some sections do require different firepower, and that's why it's good to like just have everything at your disposal in your storage if you're playing with the weapons that you get, because you have that option. The fight itself, it does lead to a really cool section when you get through a lot of the the initial boss fight, or that was the first boss fight, really. That wasn't a mini boss, obviously. The Garrador was technically the first boss fight in the cellar. But the Luis section, it kind of throws you into 2 sections with him, which is basically the mines and the double giant fight. And so this is when he steps in, and you can see like the veins like on Leon, on Leon's arm. So he gives him the suppression. And, this is kind of when it opens up a little bit. This is when he's kind of talking more to Leon about that. And he's trying to, pretty much, I guess, redeem himself with his actions, through working with Umbrella, knowing what they've done. And he kind of says it in a way, because Hunnigan fills Leon in like, yo, Luis like worked for Umbrella. And he's just like, I know I couldn't trust him, immediately. Right. But then he hears him and he's like, why do you want to help me? Like, why are you here? Like trying to just like, why? And he's just like, it's just something I have to do. I just want to, he just wants to redeem it from, and he kind of had that in the original, but it's played a lot more serious here, especially when we see him in the cutscene and there's way more dialogue. And now we have this, co-op kind of section that is like, obviously he's with you. Again, RE6, he doesn't have a health bar. He can take damage. He gives you ammo, but it works. Like these sections were probably one of my favorites within the castle, right back to back with Vertigo, because Luis got time. He got time to spend with Leon, and like you get to actually play these sections, and he's making jokes, but like he still feels more like a human. And like, he mentions in an off-key remark like, Umbrella's going to be finished anyway. You don't got to deal with them. But they never officially say Umbrella's finished, or that, because let's be honest, even though if they are technically gone, they never really disappeared, because that's just what Tricell ended up becoming. So I wonder if they're going to keep Umbrella just still like a thing and not really completely kill it, because they knew that they were going to eventually just bring it back in a different way anyway. So they're kind of leaving breadcrumbs to that connection. You know what I mean? Yeah, like this section, man, I did not like the mine section in the original 4, in the underground section. I remember, like, even today, like, it's okay. But I remember even when I played it back then, like, when I would play through RE4, I didn't mind many sections, but the minecart section I would always dread, because it was just like, it's just like, all right, you're on the cart stops, they jump on, cart stops, they jump on, and then it's like you're done in a few minutes. Like this, it's like, no, you have to go through, get the dynamite, do a bunch of stuff. So they switched it up, you know what I mean? And the cart has a health bar, so it gives you infinite ammo, and you have to shoot stuff in the way. So like they did a little bit of exploring in the mines, and you actually see where they harvested the Plaga's egg down below. So again, really cool that Luis is trying to show Leon, like, hey, we have to get out through here, but also, like, this is where they did this is where they found what we're dealing with right now. And I thought that was great because we just, kind of saw the underground in the original, and it was just kind of like, okay, like, it's cool, but it just seemed like it was whatever. But this whole section with Luis was just awesome. And then the double giant fight was also really cool because, again, doing that by yourself in the original was just kind of like, it didn't really make sense. Like, here, 2 Gigantes for that section just seemed kind of right. And the one you can drop in the center still, but you have to be really, like, careful with how you do that because it's harder to do that in this game than in the original, where it seemed like it was just like they would be smart, but, like, now they, like, back away and shit. So it's like, it's a little bit harder to nail down. What did you guys think, starting with Perry, in terms of the Luis section in this game being a lot more expanded on, and his character alone, because, like, these are pretty much his chapters before he goes bye-bye.
Yeah. I thought they were good. Again, it's streamlined. I'm gonna keep using that word. I know people are probably like, "Oh, what are you talking about?" It's more streamlined, storyline wise, gameplay wise, and I like that. I thought the cart music though, do 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 do. I thought that was kind of lame, but I didn't have an issue with it. I thought it was great. The 2 giant fights. Richard and I joke about what if Leon just jumped into the lava and left Luis by himself. Luis would be like, holy fucking shit.
Like, I did this all this for you, and you just jumped in the lava? What the hell?
But yeah, I enjoyed it. I didn't have an issue with it. I like it. I like it a lot. To quote Jim Carrey. It's fun. It's a different dynamic of the whole thing. And the cart level in the original 4, I'm sorry, but you're right, it sucked. It was there just to be a pain in the ass. And this game is there to be fun. It's like giving the player a break. It's like, man, you went through this whole game. Have a little bit of fun right here. It's like in Final Fantasy VII, there's a snowboarding level. It's like, hey, you worked hard. Just have fun for
and
like
and
2.5
Luis
minutes.
is like a good partner because he actually, he has a weapon and he doesn't get, like, carried away. No one can carry him on his back,
Right.
Yeah, no, he has a really cool charm to him in this game. And
he's a likable guy.
Yeah. And you could tell he's just trying to help, and he got caught up in this, stuff a lot more than he thought he would, and now he's, like, suffering the consequences, and he knows that. But, like, him being able to remove the parasite and has that, machine, it's pretty much like because of Luis is why the game ends the way it does in terms of, like, them surviving. So it's really like you feel that crucial element that he brings to the story here in terms of, like, his intelligence basically saves their ass in the long run because no one else is looking out for him, or no one else knows enough about the Plagas parasite to even give them intel on it. So, but what about you, Frank? What did you think about the Luis chapters, which was, I think, 2 chapters together back to back?
I mean, I love Luis as a character. I'm surprised that you said he wasn't really in it in the original a lot, because I think he's very pivotal to this game. I mean, obviously,
really,
like you've been saying.
Seriously, man, it's crazy.
The minecart thing is fun. It's over the top, and when I'm first doing it, I'm like, yo, these guys would be dead. Like, there's no way.
And it is a little goofy. It's that goofiness we just talked about earlier.
Yeah, and they throw the chainsaw guy in there, which is funny.
And he just stands there. He's just like, oh, and you're just shooting the cart, like, just die. Like,
it reminds me of when I was a kid, like those haunted rides that you'd go in,
yeah, like the fun house.
Yeah,
yeah.
It's like that's totally what the vibe it gave me.
Like an old little haunted, like, ride through where
the stuff pops out at you and you're like, it used to freak me out as a kid, but I just
Ride Playland.
I went on one with this guy right here.
Yeah. I like how they gave you a break too in between, like, those sections, and they refill, like, your health bar, so it's not just like one long section. like they kind of did that in the original where like you have to jump off and then you're on again, but like it uses Leon's health bar, so like your actual health is being used. Here it's like the cart has the health bar and it refills the second time, so that was a nice little break as well.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, it's a whole new cart. Of course, you're gonna get a new health bar.
Yeah,
you definitely needed the break in between because when you play on some of the harder difficulties, you mess up a couple times and that's it.
yeah.
So.
Instead, they could have been like, "Oh, you get on the cart, but you got to use your actual health and resources." It's like, wait, why? I'm getting hit by all angles. Like, why? Because it felt that way with the other one. Because like, if you let them in the original, when you let them jump on the carts, if you shot them before, they would just fall. So you would have to just pick them off, like shoot them. But like, it was done a lot better here, and it is a little goofy, but you know, it's a nice little moment you get with Luis because he does last long in this game, but he doesn't last much longer after this because and I kind of knew, like when I was playing it, I was like, okay, he's having his time now, but I just had a feeling when he was walking off because people were saying that in the Krauser cutscene they saw a body kind of laying down, and you could, but you didn't know who it was, and a lot of people were saying Luis, and they were right. I mean, it was Luis. Unfortunately, Luis does get got by Krauser in this, and not Sadler. He gets killed by Sadler in the original. He gets stabbed through the chest while he's trying to give Leon the antidote. And here it's basically just like, all right, you're walking with Luis, and then boom, he just gets the knife thrown into him, and he's like down for the count for that little time. But the interaction or the appearance of Krauser, which is another character that gets introduced that is a lot. Talk about a character that, in my opinion, I think is a lot more well done and established. This is where Krauser steps in and becomes a kind of like a second villain here, where he kind of butts in and says, "Hey, yeah, remember me? I'm back, bitch, and I'm the reason why Ashley's kidnapped because I basically, I was in with them, and that's how Sadler got all the intel. So basically, sold them out. But in the original, he just shows up, and you're just like, well, who is this guy? This guy." And he's like, Krauser. Oh, been a long time, comrade. You're like, well, who the fuck are you? But here you're like, oh, this is the dude that I saw training him in the intro. Would you want to see Operation Javier? And Operation Javier is, covered in Darkside Chronicles originally. Now, they don't expect you to play a Wii spin-off Resident Evil game to get the story. So the way that they did it here, like, bravo, because they left the files around in Krauser's tent. He had the tape recorder, and he even talks about it. Like, what he witnessed in Operation Javier changed his mindset on the power that can be had with this, with these viruses, with these attacks. And I think he knows deep down that, like, he's going to have to take down the dude that trained trained him everything that he has, like, everything that he knows he taught him. So I don't know. I just felt like when he appears, it fit well, because even though you didn't read everything when he stabs Luis, and you have that little mini, parry fight with the knife, which is very well done, by the way. No quick time events, no cutscene. Like, the stab happens. He has the knife, and he's ready to attack your ass, and you have to stay on him.
Stabbed him in the dick a couple of times, too, when he went down.
Yep. You got to stay on his ass, and obviously, it just flows a lot better, because as they're knifing, they're talking. They say, "Oh, remember what happened 2 years ago? Is this about what happened 2 years ago, Operation Javier?" And they kind of fill that in. They talk about it, right? But
why does Krauser sound like a 5-year-old kid angry on the playground?
Now the thing is that
you a Wookie.
The thing is that I will say this.
Remember the jungle?
I wasn't crazy about his voice actor either, to be honest. I'm going to play it straight. I'm not going to pull any punches, but
he sounded like an angry 5-year-old kid on the playground of a school. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah, he's
like, what the hell?
It didn't really fit him that much. I mean, it wasn't as bad as it was in the trailers initially, but I still will say this. I like the original voice actor better.
And he contradicts himself, too. Because in the next part, he's like, "Oh, you're not going to make it too far." And then when you get to I knew you'd make it this far.
Yeah,
it's like,
It's like, okay. It's like, well, you're trying to doubt me, but you knew that
you just said I wasn't, and then when I did, you're like, I knew you would.
Yeah.
It's like, what?
And it's like, well, I guess I am now because I made it this far, asshole. You know, it's like, yeah, like I don't know. I think the knife fight was cool because in the original, it gets interrupted by Ada, which is like, you know, kind of strange. But here, I like the fact that it gets interrupted by Luis, which I loved. I like the fact that Luis just wasn't like stabbed and then, you know, and the one thing that I really like about that scene is because, you know, Krauser retreats, obviously. Luis shoots at him. You know, Krauser fucks off. He'll come back in a little bit. But before Luis gives Leon the key to his lab, because that's pretty much how he needs to, you know, get the hell out of Dodge and leave the island in one piece, I like the conversation he has about, you know, he's just like, man, I think I can change, right? Did I do enough? You know, can people still change despite, you know, what I've done so far, you know, with the umbrella guilt that he had. And I thought that was a great, like, final moment with him. And the whole, like, you know.
Yeah, he went out like a hero.
Yeah, and exactly. And, like, you know, he really tried to, you know, have that kind of, like,
redemption.
Yeah, that kind of redemption story. Because he says that, you know, oh, it's time to rescue the princess, you know, when he says that. And then, you know, he says that before they go into the mines or whatever. He's making that joke. And Leon's like, get out of here. And then when he finally passes away, he says, you know, rest easy. And then he says, like, the...
Don Quixote.
Yeah, Don Quixote. So it's like, that's pretty cool that they kind of made that connection of, like, you know, his childhood stories that he had remembering from his grandfather and his cabin. Like, they just connected Luis perfectly, man. So that was a great way to close that out. Very well done. Very well acted. Very just fitting for, you know, where they had to kind of set up Leon next, because obviously now it's not only just between Luis, what happened with Luis, but now it's personal between him and Krauser, unfinished business from Operation Javier, and they set Operation Javier up enough to where you find out more about it as you kind of get into Krauser's tent. The Ashley section I thought was very well done with, like, the actual lights that you have now, and you're going in and, like, you know, you have the nights that you have to worry about. It's better than just throwing the lanterns, because that was horrible in the original, when, like, the only thing Ashley could do is throw lanterns that were just on the table, and, like, her aiming was random as well. Very, like, weird how they did that. So, like, this whole Ashley section where they split up and Leon is, like, held captive in that little, like, you know, centerpiece when they have all the pieces there. This was a section they could have just, like, you know, completely took out, but I'm happy they kind of kept it in, because there's a little bit of the puzzle solving, and then you can get the extra pieces and stuff like that. But the knights they brought back the knights, and they were awesome. They got the parasites, like, you can see them, like, the parasites in their armor, which is really cool.
This is where I'm gonna have a problem with this whole thing.
Okay, you didn't like
By
this
the way,
section?
The cartoon when I was a kid was called Don Quixote. It was a rip on that.
Okay.
Here that's a fairy tale, and this is a rip on it.
Right.
I bet you it was a Don Quixote and Sancho Panda from 1990. That's the cartoon I used to watch.
I know some of this shit I'm probably going to mispronounce, by the way, but it's all good. I don't know how.
No. It's Don Quixote, but then they made Coyote.
Okay.
Because he's a coyote in the cartoon.
Yeah.
All right, because it's a rip on the word, the name. I think that the Plagueis in the armor is the most ridiculous thing. It's a virus. It shouldn't be running around in armor looking stupid with the eyeball sticking out.
Yeah, the eyeball. Yeah.
This virus is deadly. It's not supposed to be funny and ha-ha and hee-hee. I think that's where, like, the typical Capcom going overboard.
Well, it's more of a parasite, right? So they're trying to embody the parasite being, like, you know, within the body.
Right, but it's supposed to be deadly. It's not supposed to be like, hey guys, look at me, I got armor on. Isn't this funny? Isn't this cool? Like, you know, come on. Like, what are you doing?
Well, yeah, I mean, they have, you know, they have a couple fights with them.
Now, the parasite, here's what I would have done. If you had a tomb of knights, the parasite leaks into the tomb, and, you know, their dead bodies, like, reactivate. The parasite controls the dead bodies in the armor.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And that's how I think I'm
that
assuming...
would make more sense than
Right.
having a little red guy sticking out like, ooh,
Well, I'm assuming they got
that was some
it,
like Saturday morning cartoon shit right there.
Well, they definitely got exposed to the Las Plagas probably by being within Salazar's castle, and the fact that I feel like that's definitely not far off. I mean, clearly they had to get affected by something, but I don't know, the exact.
Well,
cause,
weren't they
like,
just
when.
knight statues that these things got into?
Well,
they're like suits of armor, I thought.
Yeah, they're suits of armor. That's the thing too. Like,
yeah, but were there bodies in there? I don't think so. I think they were just armor.
That's a good thing to maybe I could pull up here to see if like maybe that's
Yeah, see if those were actual knights or if that was just armor on the wall, like for decoration.
The Armadora. It says they are first encountered. Let's see. These creatures possess both light silver and tougher heavy armor. Plagas who have lost their host will inhabit these armored suits, remaining dominant to converse energy as they wait for a creature suitable for becoming the host. The Plaga stretches out the inside of the armor and manipulate it with the tentacles, allowing it to move in human-like ways, swinging swords and held blades.
So how would it know? Like,
it's kind of twisting it.
It's
a little
hokey.
Bit. But they try. There's a couple of fights with them. When you have to get the when you have to do the special fight and kill the Gold Knight, that's a side mission. You go back down as Leon, and you have to fight the Gold Knight. And
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, that's like a little section in there because you see him with Ashley, but you don't fight him. So, but what you guys think of the Ashley section? Did you like it? Like, it wasn't that long, but like, it was a little weird to kind of have to like point the lantern and then you had to run from him.
I didn't like it because it reminds me of the Mary Jane missions from Spider-Man.
Okay.
It's like, I just want to play the game.
Yeah.
As Leon. I don't want to run around with a lantern. And she has no weapons. And
that's fair.
Look, I get it.
I liked it better than the original, for sure.
Yeah, they're trying to instill horror and all that. That's the name of the game.
That minimalistic approach. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so if you have a character that has no weapons, like...
It's scary, right.
Yeah, you're going to get nervous. You're going to be like, how am I going to do this? It's a one... If you know where to go, it's 1, 2, 3.
Well, I was thinking how they're going to have Ashley, like, is she just going to throw lanterns from tables, or are they going to give her that, and they gave her the blue light that, like, stops them. So I thought that was at least better than, like, just running and then throwing lanterns that she could barely throw. Because, like, in the old one, you would throw the lantern, but if the enemy moved, she would still throw it in that direction because you couldn't aim it. It was like auto throw. It was so weird.
I don't even remember from the original, I'll be honest.
Yeah, it's not. Long. Yeah, it's not really. It's not.
I beat the original like 10 years ago on Xbox.
Yeah,
and I beat it originally when it first came out on GameCube a long time ago.
You had to do quick times with Ashley in the original too, because when you were coming back in the original, the statues were like ready to attack, so you had to like it was like A, B, or L and R, on GameCube, like to just like move out of the way or whatever. And same thing on the other consoles. It was like it would all just be quick time events, and some of the quick time events, by the way. If you notice on other ports of the OG RE4, like the boulder, for example, like it moves faster, and so like you're tapping it and you're not fast enough. Like there's certain times when like things would load faster, and it was just like a pain in the ass. Like I'm so happy they took, and again I know what a lot of people are saying. There's still QuickTime events in RE4. There's button prompts, yes, but it's not in the cutscene. It's not within. Right. Because I know people are going to say in the comments, like, you keep saying there's no QuickTime events. Yes, like, there is QuickTime events. There's button prompts. You have to evade the bullshit, man. There's buttons for the enemies. Like, I get it. But, like, not in the cutscene. Like, you can actually put your controller down. You can watch stuff. It's not like...
That's how I first got killed in the fourth game on GameCube. I was watching when he met Krauser for the knife fight.
Yeah.
I was like, all right. And I don't know what I was eating. I put the controller down for a second. Let me eat this. Right? I bite into my thing. All of a sudden, the fucking guy's dead.
It's like, been a long time, comrade. Oh, like, it's just like...
So I had to redo it. I had to rewatch the whole thing again. And this time I had to hold the remote.
Yeah, I mean...
Pain in the ass.
Yeah, it just flowed better with how they, use those prompts tastefully. And it wasn't like, it's not 05 all over again where it's like, a quick time here.
Yeah, and you have an option.
There.
You can press the button or you can get hit. Like, you know what I mean? Whereas back then, forget it. You didn't press it, you're done.
You can also turn off the repeating button prompts, so you can just tap it once. That's also the accessibility options in this game, by the way, are pretty cool. You can adjust a lot of stuff. That's one thing I didn't mention, but yeah, I mean, in terms of like, you know, when we get to you know, Ashley and the suppression and stuff, we get the key from Luis, and then we finally go back. You can do a couple more side missions and stuff, like I just mentioned. You can go and find the Salazar throne. You can throw the egg at his painting, which is a side mission. You just throw the egg at his little family throne, because he has the photos of his family on the wall and stuff. Again, really cool. Why is there chickens there? I don't know. That's just what they did. Again, kind of adding to that funny, like, why is that there? But let's talk about Salazar. So Salazar, his castle is just, you know, there's so much to it. It's very rich. There's a lot to go into. There's, you know, a lot of stuff that you can do or miss. But when you get to the final fight of Salazar, a lot of people were wondering, well, how are they going to make Salazar in this remake? You know, they're not going to just make him a boss on the wall like he was in the original. Basically, in the original, he was on a wall in one spot, and then he had a one-hit kill attack, and then he had tentacles that would come down. That's all it was in the original. Now he moves around, and he's a lot more of a pain in the ass in this one.
Yeah, and he's really annoying.
And he keeps talking a lot.
He keeps talking, and he's trying to kill you. And if you hit him, whoa, you tried to kill me. What is wrong with you? Oh, you vulgar American. It's like, you're trying to kill me.
Yeah, it's like, dude, I just went through your whole castle. Yeah, it's like, dude,
the guy's a lunatic.
I just killed your whole castle. Like, I'm going to kill your ass too. Like, we're here now. Like, you tried to kill me as soon as I came into this castle, and you're going to act like, you know, I'm just going to sit here.
You know what's weird, though? You never fought his bodyguards, which I thought they were scarier.
You fought, well, Vertigo was one of them, right? So the second one, what people are saying, because
when do you fight him?
Vertigo, you fight him in the sewer. That's one of the dudes that was in the cloaks, because he sends him after Leon.
Can you freeze him in the nitrogen?
Yeah, so you freeze him in the nitrogen. So that's the boss fight, the Vertigo, that we talked about.
So that was the guy wearing the freaking cloak?
That was one of them. Now, in the original, that was also Vertigo as well. That was one of them. However, the second one we never saw. Now, people are saying in this game, the second one will be U3 that was cut, that we didn't see. That's what people are saying, they're just speculating. I'm not saying that's real, but like, they didn't do that in the original. The second guy wasn't U3. However, the first one was Vertigo. So that they kept the same. Now, if they bring in...
I didn't even know that.
If they bring in U3 now on separate ways, that would be cool, because maybe Ada's in the castle, and then she sees, you know, the other Salazar minion, and that's what he has to do, or what she has to deal with. But that's something that, to keep in mind, of like, you know, whether or not they go and circle back around to that, because, when I played through it, I was like, okay, when I was coming up to the Salazar fight, I'm like, okay, they cut U3. Like, he is not in this at all. Because again, I didn't look up what was cut. I didn't look up what was in the game. I kind of tried to go in,
right.
You know, when I got that copy, I was like, all right, let me just try to shut everything off and check it out. But the Salazar fight, you know, I do like it better than the original. It is a little bit more annoying, but once you get it down, you can also throw a golden egg at him, which like really like damages his health. You only got to shoot him a couple more times.
He has an egg allergy.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and that's like in the game.
Which
like
is
they
probably
did that.
why they put that Easter egg where you throw the egg at the painting.
Yeah.
To let you know, hey, this guy's got an egg allergy.
Yeah, and it's like a weird thing that, you know, again, only that boss. Like, I haven't tried to use it on a different boss. So that's a good point. Like, why is it just him with that egg that gets affected? Because no one was like, oh, throw an egg at the giant or throw an egg at the big cheese.
I believe we were told in the chat room it was an egg he has an egg allergy.
That's funny as hell.
Like, if you're allergic to something, it's going to really screw you up.
Yeah, because, like, Capcom did that, like, on purpose in terms of, like, you know, that's not a glitch. They made that egg do damage. They just made it kind of hidden. And you can find it in his throne room. So if you're like, oh, well, where do I find it? Well, you find one gold egg on the chicken island.
Right.
And then you find the second one in his throne room. But you have to go back to his throne room. You can miss it. And I missed the throne room. A lot of people are like, Anthony, what the fuck? You missed it. I'm like, I'm sorry, because there's a whole file that, talks about,
Where's his throne room?
So you have to go back. So like,
oh, right. That's where he drops you, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And, you just have to go back when you backtrack there. And, I think a lot of people, kind of wanted to see, whether or not you could, sit in the chair as well, because they have that, like, the chair, you could still sit there.
Yeah,
too.
the infamous Scarface scene.
Yeah, so they have that,
they put
which
in the
is
game.
It's funny. Adding that humor is hilarious, but how Salazar.
You know why they did that, right?
What's that?
Because Scarface was being re-released in the theaters.
Oh yeah.
In I think 04 or something, or 03. And it was like a big deal. Like, it was all over the place. I think Capcom did that on purpose. Little ha ha he he.
Yeah, and it's like a lot of the references that you see, like, I mean, they take a lot of stuff from American films too. That's kind of like a big thing.
Oh yeah. So is Kojima.
Yeah. So because I was gonna say, because in the original he takes the one that's left, his minion, and he absorbs him into him. So it goes down a little bit different, but like, yeah, it's like they basically have a whole family tree with Salazar, and that's kind of how they connected everything to, his whole family and stuff like that, and. Ramon had that access to the Plagas and was able to make that deal with Sadler. So they still kind of kept that, very similar. But this fight here is just more, it's just kind of more, I guess, like, it's a little bit more of a pain in the ass, but it's also, I don't know, I like it better. Like, it's a pain in the ass, but, like, I don't know, I just feel like it was so easy to get the rocket launcher in the castle in the original, because they would give you a rocket launcher, and if you just held on to it, you would always kill Salazar in one hit every time.
Right.
But here it's like, okay, he's not on the wall and standing still, but he's moving, and it's a little bit more annoying. But like,
I'll be honest, man. I tried to beat this guy for 2.5 hours on normal.
Yeah.
And I kept running out of ammo. That was the big issue for me. I couldn't craft anymore. I was running out. I don't like how you can craft a specific ammo at a time, and I'm like, because you have to have a certain amount of, pieces or whatever. And it's like, guys, just give me ammo. Like, enough of the crafting thing really shouldn't be a thing in these games. You know what I mean? Like, The Last of Us did it, and everyone stole it from them. And it works in certain games, that does not work in every game. I like the fact in Resident Evil you could just pick up ammo and you could just keep going.
Right.
But I have all these guns. I can't craft any specific ammo. I could craft rifle ammo, and it's like, but I suck at the rifle. Like,
it just depends on the resources that you have, basically. Because
so I had to, after 2.5 hours, I said, screw it. I got a rocket launcher. I killed him.
I know it's not for everybody. I think a lot of people, because RE4 original didn't have crafting. It was just ammo, and you couldn't buy ammo, but you would just have to find it. And then here it's
I think crafting needs to just go away in general. For certain games, it works. For certain games, it does not work. And if they're going to make you craft stuff, let you craft the ammunition that you need.
Well, you know what
because I had a bunch of guns I couldn't use.
That's true. But, they started to bring back the crafting, quote-unquote, with the gunpowder in RE7, which was a callback to RE3, bringing in the gunpowder again. So I understand they started to bring back elements of, like, you can combine certain things again. Like, they started to kind of make that more of a thing. Like, it was there in RE2 and 3, but now they have their own crafting menu, and the difference,
but when I have pistols and shotguns and stuff, I don't even have a rifle. And it's like, yeah, you can only craft rifle ammo in the middle of a fight. It's like, I don't have a rifle.
Yeah, I know. And
if I do, I suck at it. Like, I'm and this guy, he doesn't stand still for a second.
No, he's moving.
The minute you do the rifle thing, you get an eye on him, he moves.
Yeah.
And then while he's moving, he's talking, he's screaming, he's yelling, he's shitting on you. These blobs fucking drop on you, they explode. On you. Like, the guy's a nut.
Yeah, and he also has, like Like you have to knock them down and then you have to stab them a certain, like one of those like things where you have to.
Yeah, I did that like
parasite.
3 or 4 times.
It seems like it takes forever the first few times.
I had no health, and this guy killed me, and I was like, "Come on, man!"
Yeah.
Like, and I tried, man. 2.5 hours, I couldn't figure it out.
Yeah, man, it's tough. It really is tough. I mean, they switched it up, I think, in a good way, but obviously it's tough if you're not, having the best arsenal or the best health situation, which was my case for sure, because I think it was my hardcore run. I didn't have enough anything, and it was tough, and I didn't know about the trick with the egg, so it's like that would have saved me so much
I didn't
time.
either. That would have.
Yeah.
Again, like you said, it would have saved me 2.5 hours if I knew about the egg.
That's the fun in it, like especially playing it within the first month was just like you're playing it and like everybody's telling you about all these things, but like when you experience it for yourself is when it's more like memorable. You're like, oh, okay, now I like finding it out like that is kind of cool. Even if someone comes in the chat and tells you, but when you finally do it, you're like, oh shit, like this is a pretty cool skip, or not even the skip, but just like the stuff that's in the game already. Because I know obviously as of this recording, they patched out all the skips. So
they did.
Yeah, all the skips are like all the ones where people were quick turning the door stuff, all that stuff's patched out as of this recording. And so all those S runs that everyone got, they got them when they could, because now, I mean, you can still get S runs, but like, or S plus runs, but like the time obviously won't be as trimmed down as it was if you got it within those first few updates.
Here's what you do. If you have it on disk, uninstall the game, disconnect your system from the internet, install the game on the disk, do all the runs that you could do, and then when you reconnect to the internet, it'll update it to the current update, but you could still get away with it.
Yeah, if you do
on Steam, you're screwed, but
yeah, if you do a speedrun online or something, you could do that just for the speedrun, because some people are crazy like that. They'll try to get it down to the wire, and I respect people that do that. I'm still trying to get better at that as far as like playing it through legit. But, man, Salazar, it's a good send-off. I love the way that they handled his character. I love his presence. They definitely kept it the same as the original, but just kind of made it more streamlined with the castle. Cut out the rooms that they needed to. I didn't really feel U3's cut that much, to be honest. And I don't know. I like the fights that we got. So, like, the castle for me, man, fucking 10 out of 10. I'd give it 11 out of 10 if I could. I mean, I can't say nice enough things about it, and just how it blew me away every step of the way. So, the castle kind of, at that point, I knew that, we were on the striking gold with
one
this
thing I want to know, and I'm sure other people have had the same thought, but nobody said anything. In the throne room where you drop down into the sewers or the pit or whatever you want to call it, and there's that one part where you have to duck and like walk. There are those insignia chains there. Who the hell put those there?
I don't know.
Did the cultists go down there and decorate?
Yeah, or did they just drop them from ahead? Like, all right, I think that's good enough. Like, was it really that important to decorate? I don't know.
Yeah, because when you go to kneel down, that little thing is over there, and I'm like, these guys are decorating this thing?
Also,
I thought if you go down there, you're done.
Right.
They kind of lead you to believe people were trapped down there for a while. Like, they wrote diaries
like the bones and stuff.
Like,
the diaries you find. Yeah, that's the one thing, too, man. I can't say, nice enough things about the cool files and stuff that you find hidden around that you can, you miss, but then you go back and you find them over, multiple playthroughs. And that was awesome, man, just to kind of see those, because the files were in RE4, but they're a lot better in this time around, just because of the little details. And the Lady D castle was not it in terms of showing off something in the RE engine. This castle was it in the RE engine. It's in terms of showing it in this grand scale, how the backtracking was, how they really redefined like the whole, like, the look and feel of the castle, because of just like how far we've come in those graphics. The original, the castle still looked dope. I mean, it wasn't in the original, the castle was a breakup from like the gray and the brown that the village had. So it was kind of nice even in the original, but here it's like flawless. What did you guys think of the castle overall?
Fantastic.
Yeah.
I think it was broken up in specific parts, and each part had its own role. It did the role well, and I thought it was good. All right, go ahead.
I, I think this is my favorite part of the game. Just the aesthetic.
Definitely, yeah.
The every part of it. I mean, you don't know what you're gonna expect when you walk through another door. When you start out and you go into the first area and there's that fog and all the guys are coming at you, like that was just so cool. And like I said, this is where the graphics shine, the lighting, the reflections, everything. There's so many different materials, and I just love this part.
Yeah, man. And that's the thing too. Like I think they really have they really had, something with like trying to, wrap up the main like kind of middle part of the game where you had these different characters coming in. Like I think that you knew that they were going to go in a certain way with, with Luis, maybe he could have survived until later on in the game, but like with this it's like everything was kind of mapped out how the story needed to, because at this point, Leon's still up against the clock and, he has to get to his laboratory on the island. So that's like, pretty much where Ashley's being taken to the island, at this part. We didn't talk about the clock tower lift part as well, but that did happen right before the Salazar fight. And that part was also really cool. Very well done. Obviously, it reincorporated the statue for a little bit without it chasing you, and you also got the redcoats spawning. So that was a cool little part. That was actually a little bit easier than the original. I think the original is a little bit more of a pain in the ass, but I don't know. I might be wrong on that one. Maybe just because the redcoats are a little bit harder in the remake. Maybe the remake's just a tad bit harder on that, but still a really fun section that they kept pretty much the same. But yeah, man, can't say enough great things about the castle. And of course, within the story, Ashley is still captured. She gets recaptured again and taken to the island. And of course, who takes Leon to the island? Ada Wong. So he's able to have another conversation with Ada Wong as we make our way to the island. And this is the final section of the game. This was, I guess before we go into the island, it's important to bring out that a lot of people were, hoping that this would be changed up in this remake. A lot of people said, the island in the originals, when things kind of got weird, the pacing kind of fell off. It got way too action oriented, like a little bit too much. Obviously, RE4 had a lot of action, but do we really need, Gatling gun dudes and stuff like that and a bunch of stuff? Now, the island did also have horror elements in the original. It had the regenerators and it had other things that, were still making it horror, but a lot of people were wondering how the hell they were going to pull off the island Ganados and those enemies and, also not make it, so annoying with how they kind of laid everything out. And, it opens with Leon and Ada having that conversation about, what happened in Raccoon City. It's more of a filled conversation this time than how it was in the original, where she just like looks at him and then turns the boat into the rock and then leaves him. But she's still being distant. Ada is still being Ada, and she knows she's still in it for the mission. But she still kind of talks to Leon like, he still exists and he still went through that, and them trying to kind of understand where they stand after those events of Raccoon City. So when Leon is left off there at the island, Ada pretty much, again, leaves him, and Leon is there to, try to, pretty much, get back Ashley, but also try to find the lab of Luis where he gave him the key. So, but it's a little bit different though. Like when you enter the island, it's not the same area as you get in there in the original. They definitely started to kind of maneuver the island a little bit differently. This is when they started to trim down some even more rooms than even just the castle. Now it seems like they switched it up a little bit. Like there's sections where the spotlight is still there, and instead of the Gatling gun JJs, you get the cowman kind of like has like a turret arm that you can parry the bullets with your knife, which looks funny. But it's a little bit different. It's not it doesn't have any like more action than what the castle or the village would have. Now the enemies obviously have stun rods. They're a little bit more advanced. Like they definitely are more armored, but to be fair, I think it was a decent balance when they approached, how, or at least how they approached this island this time. And we knew the regenerators were going to be in here. That was like what I was looking forward to the most, because I love the regenerators. I still think they're, creepy as hell, and I love their, presence on the island. But man, like the island really blew me away in this remake. I didn't think that it was actually going to be like, that much better, or what they could do to like actually make this better. But man, like this was like, I was like, holy shit, they talk about a streamline. They made this thing like, they tightened up this island the best they possibly could have with the pacing of this game. The pacing did not fall flat at this section, and it's the home stretch. So you think, okay, it's a lengthy game. There is a lot of chapters and there's a lot of side missions, but like, I wasn't like, oh man, like there's this part to the island. Like everything seemed like it flowed very well. I don't know, like a part that I really hated in the original that like I couldn't stand. Not as much as like the mine carts, but I would say I didn't really like the truck thing that they cut. The whole truck segment with the crane. Yeah, obviously like now it's just like crane section and then that's it. But like the fact that they took out the truck section, I'm so happy that they did that, because that was so stupid in the original RE4 where Ashley drives a dump truck and you have to sit on the back and shoot enemies off of it.
Oh,
as
that
she
thing.
drives.
Okay, I remember.
So it's just like it never flowed right with me, and it never really made sense. And I'm just like, okay, I just don't like, they could leave this out and I'd be fine. And they actually took it out. So like things like that where I'm like, between the mine underground part in the original and that part that I just mentioned with the truck, those are probably my least favorites in the original, and they were significantly either removed or they were improved. So I no complaints here as far as like the actual segments themselves, but did you guys like feel like that it kind of kept the same kind of action vibe up until this point? Like you didn't think it was like getting too over the top with it, right? Like you felt that everything kind of seemed balanced. Like how did you guys feel getting up to this point?
It felt more RE5-ish to me.
Right.
But it's not like I wasn't expecting it.
Yeah, because it's kind of like a military.
You're getting up to the
aesthetic.
end of the game, and everything's getting intense now. Salazar's going to send all his guys after you, or Sadler. I keep getting those two. Why'd they name him that? You could get them mixed up so much.
Yeah, I know. Salazar, Sadler. Yeah.
Salazar is sending his guys down there to stop Leon at all costs, because this is it. It's now or never. But yeah, I got more of an RE5 vibe with all that. So, again, I don't think that's a bad thing. And again, he's saving the president's daughter. He's on a mission. It's not like he's in the Blair Witch Project and then all these guys come out with military guns and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, this is a mission from day one. I think it's fine. I don't have an issue with it. I enjoyed it. I think it was great. I think it was broken up properly. I like when you have to climb that ladder and you're in that little, like, upstairs hallway thing. And you could duck underneath the bomb thing. And you go in the locker room and the guys chase you. You can have them explode. Then you drop down. Like, all that stuff is cool. I like that.
Yeah, and like I think the main complaint from the original was the fact that it was like, you had the laser scene in the original as well, at this part of it.
That was to promote the movie. Nobody cared.
Yeah, and no one really cared. But like, again, just unnecessary shit that like didn't really need to be there, that like made the island
I don't think
forgettable.
people understand. At the end of the day, this is a different Capcom than it was 20 years ago.
Yes.
There are different writers. There are different people, running the situation.
Different teams handling it all together.
Right. Different teams completely. You have some people that are still there, but not everybody.
That's why the consistency wasn't there in the recent like games. Obviously now they're trying to make it a little bit more cohesive, but
right.
It took
Back
a while.
then they were writing the story as they went along. Now they have the story. And again, we're going to use that word again. They're streamlining it. They want to make it consistent with the current games that are out there.
And the OG RE4 was the last one, Shinji Mikami actually worked on. And
right.
that was it. That was his, that's when he left. And so I think now, them trying to take that and, honor that, I mean, they definitely did that in a very in a very good way. Sorry, I can't even talk. In a very good way, because I think they did it to where, they said, okay, we saw what didn't work before with this island. It's a little janky. Let's just make it to where you get on the island, you approach it really quickly, and it throws you into it. Obviously, it has to wrap up a bunch of stuff because it wants to, kind of keep you in suspense as to what's going to happen with Krauser, what's going to happen with, obviously the parasite really taking over. And that's the one thing I like about this island section, is that it feels like the time's running out. It feels like the walls are closing in. Like you said, Leon reacts to, what's happening, what's going on. You don't get that in the original. Obviously, yes, there's a scene where, he has the nightmare. That's still in this game. He has the nightmare on the boat. There's a scene in the original where he starts choking Ada because you see his change in his eye. That's not in this game, but you do see it. But it doesn't.
No, it is not in this game.
But it doesn't really I don't know. It doesn't. It's kind of like they tried to show it more from Ashley and Leon's perspective, and I thought they did that in a very good way, where they literally, they show Ashley just looking like she's ready to die, and then Sadler's controlling her, making her aim the gun at Leon, which was kind of generic of the whole no bullets. They you kind of knew that was going to happen. It was a trailer moment that they wanted to use, but I know what they had to do there. I think with Ashley, I think they wanted to have her. I think they wanted to have her just be a lot more present within trying to actually, I guess, be affected by everything that's going on, because she seems like she's affected by it in the original, but she just seems whiny. Here, she's really taking it seriously, and she's trying to understand what's going on, and it just feels a lot more convincing. And that's also probably the actress portraying her as well, and the writing. So like you said, Capcom, the difference within who's within the team now and who did it back then, I think now at least they're making it to where these characters feel a lot more than just B-movie characters, and a little bit more they have a history or will have a history or a connection. It's just a little bit more deeper. And it doesn't have to be that deep for Resident Evil. I understand some people are just dude, it's about zombies or it's about parasites. We get it. But I think at the end of the day, when you're doing a remake, doing things like this island in the right way and wrapping up a story like this, and people really appreciate it, that's all we want from a remake. We don't want something to be completely taken away or completely changed, unless it's an RE6 situation where it probably would have to be completely changed. RE4 wasn't kind of left in that state. So the fact that they honored that up until this point in the game, when I was already blown away, I was I'm already excited to see what Krauser was going to kind of, turn into at that point, to see how they were going to wrap that up. And that's also what we got on this island section. You know what I mean? So it really did kind of knock it out of the park in terms of kind of delivering on all three sections of those, of the game that we knew that it was going to be based on those main areas and those main villains. And again, didn't have a complete action turnaround, because the only real horror vibe that RE4 even really had in the original, besides a couple of the grotesque villains and transformations and some sections, was really just the regenerators. That was legitimately scary. But in this game, there's a lot of stuff for first timers that are playing it as well, Frank. It definitely can be scary. It's very effective.
Well, the castle, let's go back real quick. The maze?
Right. So you're not a fan of
Okay.
the maze in there?
No.
Okay.
But the island, I don't have an issue with the island. Yeah, the bulldozer part is a pain in the ass for a few seconds, but besides that, I mean, it's a horde mode. What do you expect?
Yeah, it's
It's
the
gonna be a
cabin
challenge.
section. Yeah, you got to just fend off. and make sure they don't jump on her door to pull her out or whatever. So yeah, it's like it's a different section because before it was a lot of like start and stop, and then right after that she gets kidnapped again by Sadler.
Right.
The tent that Krauser's at has a tape recorder, and it pretty much kind of explains, his resentment, towards the government and handling Operation Javier, and how, he was the one that kidnapped Ashley. He kind of discovers it there instead of just like in the cutscene.
You know what's funny about that
he's
part?
Like, you're the one who kidnapped Ashley, in the original. So
you can mod the photo of Leon to be Super Mario.
oh my god,
Yeah, somebody put that there
that's so cool
on Steam.
I love the mods. Yeah, like it works, man. It fits. I mean, I like the fact that they have it in there within the file and the tape recorder. It just feels, and again, he has the knife going through Leon's, picture and stuff. And it was 2 years prior.
The helicopter part, because when he first starts shooting, it can damage you if you're in the wrong spot. And then it's like, all right, hurry up. I want to go to the other part. And you got to wait for this guy to shoot.
Call me Mac. And his accent changes like 5 times.
Why does that guy have 10 different accents?
Yeah. I don't know.
Oh, no, hunt again. On the bar.
I know, goodbye. Yeah, it's like that section is pretty much beat for beat like the original. So that's another section that is like real action heavy between, Mike like, just shooting the shit out of the Ganados, and then you got to get on the turrets and stuff like that. So those little things that pretty much stayed the same. But going back to like Operation Javier, that wiping out his whole squad and Krauser kind of having
Who was Javier? And why does he matter?
The reason why, it's called Javier is because the dude was named Javier Hidalgo. I'm probably butchering that, so everyone's going to get mad at me in the comments. But he was doing illegal trafficking in that game. And so he was specifically in Darkside Chronicles. So it's not like he was in any other, game other than, what they wrote in that story. So that's why it was called Operation Javier. But the thing is that, he gets mutated and stuff like that. And so Operation Javier takes place in 2002. And so this taking place in 2004, it lines up, they're just trying to say, hey, this did happen without us flashing back to it. Like, I'm happy they didn't really flash back to it, because that would have been like, why are we here? We don't really need to see this. Now,
more money for them to develop the scenes for that.
Yeah, would I like for them to like ever do a spinoff where they show something like that? I wouldn't mind if they ever did a like, Resident Evil, Chronicles type game like that again, to kind of show little things like that, but not like a standalone game. But it's just cool to know that they talked about it instead of just retconning it, because, make it seem like they have history. Like, people like Frank that are playing this game can understand for the first time, okay, these guys have beef. They have history just from what they're presenting to you, right? Like, you weren't confused. You were like, oh, okay, this makes sense. Yeah.
They do a good job of explaining it, and you even, like, kind of feel like, hey, like, there's a lot of tension between these two because they've been through something together. Krauser and Leon, so.
Yeah.
That
yeah,
helps.
Exactly. And that's the thing, too, like, and there's a lot of things that end up, kind of like being referenced in, spin-offs that like don't end up ever coming back. So that's one thing that they like, they kind of still brought up, you know what I mean? And kind of talked about it a little bit further instead of like saying, all right, like he's just, again, like another dude that Leon met. Like, I'm happy they still didn't go in that direction. It took the easy way out. They still were like, all right, we got to make Krauser a little bit more balanced here, and more of a character like Luis, and obviously he gives into the parasite. He still has the blades. He has the double blades now, but you have to go through his whole, pretty much his whole training fight sequence where you basically like are going through the bunkers and going through the camp, to essentially fight him. So he's like, he has all these booby traps. He has the machine guns set up, the robot machine guns, stuff like that. So there's a lot of stuff that ends up being, you know, a little bit more expanded on instead of just like the split up fight. I mean, it kind of had a build up in the original, but you know, I like the fact of what they did here, where it's the course is laid out a bit smoother, I think. Instead of like, you know, having to get the 3 pieces for the door, it's just more like, okay, you just have to literally fight this dude to the death. And he's tough, man. Krauser is tough as hell, especially, you know, on the final fight when you're on the platform. I mean, it's in the original, you could literally knife him and he's dead in like a few seconds. Here, you have to parry, you have to jump on the ladder. Like, he's a bitch in this game. I don't know if you guys had problems with him on like the other modes, but I had problems with him the first time I played. I was like, God damn, this dude's fucking tough.
No,
It
I
was
got
tough.
what in the new game. I didn't have a problem with him. What
Yeah.
in what section? What, he fully mutates or?
Yeah, the mutation, yeah. Because he kept hitting me off the ledge and shit. I kept having like
Right. Yeah, I mean, he was tough to look. He was easy to freaking like stab and everything. But
yeah, those
he
are
didn't
easy.
let up.
Yeah. It seemed like the final platform fight, he had so much health, and it was just like, God damn, like,
Right.
when is it going to end? And again, like you said, like, first or second time playing, like, I'm running low on ammo. I have no health. Like, or in the training course, I call it the
Oh.
training course.
You know, I think I threw a grenade at him and killed him. I don't even remember. But
Oh,
I think,
nice.
I think you're right. I think I ran out of ammo too, fighting him the first
Yeah.
time.
Because that whole course leading up to the final fight, if you know, mess that up or you miss, like, you can take a lot of damage and you can use up all your health before you even get to the top. And if you play on the harder mode, you have to do that part all over again if you die. You have to start from the beginning of the course all over again. And I'm like, and I had to do that a bunch on my professional run. And I was like, God, even on professional New Game Plus, I was struggling. I was like, fuck, like, you know, and this was like, you know, first professional run, but just on New Game Plus. And it's just like, it was tough for a little bit. Obviously, as you get your upgrades, like I think I got the striker. I retired the riot gun, got the striker, and I was just like, bop, 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 like, just got him down. But, you know, Krauser, overall, like, I like how they finish it off. I like how he's like, finish me off, rookie, and he stabs him with the knife through the heart. That was such a great, you know, send off for him, because it's closure. It's someone who, you know, taught him everything, and now he's killing him. And in that moment, I think Leon also changed as a person as well, because, you know, that's another part of his life that he has to also move on from. So I think all these changes and all the stuff that the mission kind of entails, like, it's all about kind of moving on past a lot of these things that are kind of lingering in the dark. And Krauser was one of them. And he looked awesome. I liked his new design. It wasn't just the chicken wing arm, as Perry says. It was like, you know, the double blades, which look cool.
Right, but he looked like an actual bioweapon in this game.
Yeah.
Whereas in the original game, it looks ridiculous.
Yeah, I
Like,
know.
it's comical. That game, let me tell you something. OGRE4, that should be on the freaking Cartoon Network, that stupid game. That's how laughable it is. I don't care what anybody says. The new one's way better. I'm going to keep saying that. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, again, a lot of people will have, you know, always prefer, you know, their favorite version, you know, and I think with this, it's very apparent as to, you know, kind of where I mean, at least where they're going with how they're, you know, kind of pushing this story, and we'll talk about that at the very end, like where they're going next. There's no denying of where they're going next. As far as like the regenerators, though, yeah, what was your reaction to that, Frank?
So it's funny because they were like my favorite enemy, because my first reaction was literally like, okay, what is this thing? And it like slides out of the body bag, and you're like, all right, that's kind of like nasty. And you see its teeth, and you're like, what the hell? And so I don't know about the bioscope yet, or the thermal scope. So I'm just shooting at it, and it falls down, and then it has like ass cheeks, and I'm like, why does it have an ass? And it like slithers around the floor. I thought it was disgusting. I love that thing. It's so creepy. That was the creepiest, most standout enemy to me, besides like the Bull Man. But obviously the Bull Man's just like, you know, it's like it's scary, but it's different.
You can get through them a little bit easier.
Yeah, because it's like your mind can make sense of the Bull Man. Like, oh, this is a guy wearing a helmet. It's like a primal fear of just like beasts or whatever. But this regenerator thing, you can't. When I'm looking at this, I'm like, what am I looking at? Like, it freaked me out. But I like those a lot. That's my favorite enemy, I think, in the whole game.
Wow, that's cool to hear that perspective, because that was my favorite enemy when I played the original, because it was just so much of that horror feel that I kind of ended up missing a lot throughout the original RE4, and so I feel like with this they kind of tightened that up a bit, and then also made the regenerators a big standout on the island, which is cool because you do get the militia, shooting stuff in the beginning, you know what I mean? You get like that, you get all like the military dudes like kind of, attacking you. It's a different style of enemies, but then you kind of get introduced to these regenerators, and then it kind of pulls you right back into the horror. So it's like there's a little bit of a balance here, just like in the original, but the island is a lot more tightened up to where those sections don't drag out and the pacing doesn't get messed up. You know what I mean? And what did you think of Krauser, I guess, as a villain character overall, seeing his end?
I like him as a character. I did not care for that boot camp section, just because, like you said, you take a lot of damage, you waste a lot of resources.
Yeah,
I didn't care for that. But I liked the ending of that fight and the mini fight, way before, and I thought he was a good character too.
Yeah, it really made it seem like he was, the asshole, but like you could tell he was the dude that did train Leon. You know what I mean? Like they did kind of have that chemistry. They did kind of pull that off pretty well. Where there was not really any of that. If you didn't really feel any of that in the original, it just seemed like he was just some dude. But obviously, like, yes, now when you go back and play it, you know about Dark Side Chronicles and Operation Javier because they put out that Wii version after the fact, but that was all after. So the way they explained it now was just like, it just made sense, But so as far as the island goes, a lot of the stuff is, like I said, trimmed down. We do get a lot more into the actual caves and ruins. That kind of overthrows the island. Or I'm sorry, not the island, the laboratory on the island, rather. Because, yes, there is a laboratory, there is Luis's lab, but, like, there's a whole underground ruin section, basically, in the caves that has, the plaques for this, Sadler's family and, the actual rocks that or the ember that has the Las Plagas kind of the parasites in there. So it's kind of like a Jurassic Park type thing, where they're kind of like fossilized in the rock. So it was kind of cool how they portrayed that as well. You see that when you go down into Sadler's lair before he takes Ashley again and obviously controls her, tries to shoot Leon. That doesn't happen. But when you see that and you see his minions, we thought Sadler's minions were going to be more than what they were, but they just kind of end up being whatever. Like they just kind of don't really matter. I know he absorbs them, but it also, we kind of thought it was going to lead to something else. But yeah, very different for the Las Plagas, but still cool that they kind of have it kind of in this, and that's what Ada is after. She's after that vial of, the amber. So at the same time, you have Ada on this other mission, but then she's still trying to help Leon because obviously she's just trying to make sure that he, gets out. And of course, when she talks to Wesker, it's more just like, all right, you can kind of keep him around. At least that's how it was in Separate Ways in the original, where Wesker knew that Leon was there, but he wanted to let Ada he wanted to let Leon lead Sadler to where they needed to let him be, so the pieces would be set in place, basically. So don't take Leon out, because obviously Wesker doesn't give a shit, really. But again, at this point, we don't even see Wesker. Wesker's not actually, we know he's around, but we don't actually see him yet. So in terms of where they go from, the interruption, basically, because now it's not in a lab anymore, it's in the caves. So Leon has to rescue Ada, and of course, like, that's kind of where she ends up. She kind of ends up fighting Sadler, because there's a whole fight in separate ways where you have to fight Sadler like one-on-one before he transforms, but he has like the eye coming out of his mouth, and he still has like these weird like fast movements and stuff.
Right,
Very
that's
cool
how she
fight.
got captured, right?
Yeah, and so I really want to see that fight. I cannot wait, because now it takes place in the caves, in the ruins, with all those stones and stuff like that. That'd be a really cool fight before she separates it. But of course, like, there is an awesome sequence that we see where, as like I said, the plagas are really in full effect, and you see them barely holding on. The light literally is closing in on them as they're approaching the lab of Luis. Like, Leon is just carrying Ashley, and he's just trying to get to the end, and you just see all the bodies appear and all the cloakmen and all the shadows. Really cool effect how they did that, literally barely making it there. Ashley's already passed out. And so while Ada's fighting Sadler, Leon has to get his ass into the lab of Luis and get that machine to remove the parasites, and they do it just at the last second, basically. And Leon and Ashley, awake without the parasites, and it's not over yet, though, because of course now with Ada captured, it's time to take out Sadler one last time. But the cool thing about this whole section, though, is the fact that we have the Mike section that we also mentioned. So that does happen right before this as well, before I just kind of skip ahead too far. But that section, it was just okay. I mean, it was pretty much the same as the original. I didn't really like it in the original. I didn't really like it here. It was just like, okay, we're being shot at. There's guns blazing. There's turret guns. But it was still fun, but like, it was just kind of more of the same. Like the same, like just like, all right, take out the turrets. All right, we gotta do that. But they didn't have that section after that where you got to get the key cards. They cut out that section as well, because usually you have to do the Mike section, then you have to do another section where you have to get these 2 key cards. But they kind of moved everything in like one, and I had to keep going back and like saving. Like, I would do a section of that Mike section on professional, and then I'd run to the typewriter and save, and then I'd run back because there was no checkpoints. So I was like, I'm not doing this over again. Like, I would just keep going back. That was the one typewriter. Like, they were very scarce with that stuff. But the island overall, before we get into like the Sadler fight, I guess we'll just talk about the island. Like, it was better. Overall, it was a lot better, actually. I think it actually blew me away with how they did it, and it wasn't like, tacked on or just like, cut out like a clock tower in the RE3. Where it just seemed like, okay, they streamlined it, like we said. We keep going back to that, but it's true. They cut it, they tightened it up, they cut it down. You enter the island from like a different side, but you still end up on the inside. There's still the regenerators, there's still the experiments. The Iron Maidens are still there too, with the spikes, and you have to shoot them. They transform on the spot. They literally, like, you shoot all the parasites, boom, they turn right into the Iron Maidens. There's the intense sections where they try to separate you and Ashley as well, where she's turning the valve and you have to like shoot all the guys coming at her. That's really hard on the harder modes. So the island didn't fuck around, but they definitely had a decent well-packed roster of enemies and stuff. So what did you guys think about the island, kind of how they wrapped things up before we talk about like the final fight that is Sadler?
I thought that this was a nice little. This whole section was like a good change. Like, you're coming out of the castle, you get to the island. It was pretty gradual as far as like, I don't think they upped the like action too fast. I think gradually as you're getting through, and then you get to the section with the helicopter, and it gets crazier and crazier. But like you said, it's like the walls are closing in. You're at the end of the game. But I thought the pacing of this was fine. There wasn't any part of this that I didn't like. Like Perry said before, I didn't care for the maze in the castle. Like, there were parts of that I didn't really care for, but the island didn't have that. So I thought overall this was a pretty good section as well.
Cool.
Yeah, I enjoyed the island as well. It kind of reminds me of when you first get on the island, the Riddler's Island from Batman Forever. And there is a Batman mod for Leon on Steam, and I'm going to use that one day.
Hell yeah.
And it's going to look like Batman Forever. Um, like Frank said, you could go right through it. Yeah, it's tough. You got to fight through enemies, but you're going straight. Like, you're just taking the ball and you're running straight. Not backtracking for anything, really. The Regenerator fight in the, what was that, like that kitchen area or whatever?
With
Yeah,
the
there's a
wrench.
Yeah,
You got to get the key cards and stuff like that. That's crazy. It's good. I like the whole game. There's not much more I could say. I mean,
I know it's hard to find stuff to say that we haven't said yet, but I know, again, it's just kind of more just kind of redefining why, we kind of feel the way we do as far as like, down to the specifics. And it obviously unfolds with the big ass Sadler fight on the
saddlebags
on the platform, the construction zone, whatever you want to call it. But this time, Sadler has the Navistadors with him in this fight, which isn't in the original. So they were definitely a pain in the ass every single time you fight Sadler. Like, you can get it down, and they, obviously they give you ammo and health and stuff, so they drop stuff, and there's stuff around the actual environment, but damn, man, like, they are a pain in the ass. They will get on your nerves, like, big time, especially when you're trying to like shoot Sadler's eye and then they're grabbing you and like they're doing, it's like, man, that there's a lot of stuff going on in that fight. And Sadler, transforms, goes all ape shit, and obviously we know where it goes. You have to pop the eyes, you have to keep stabbing him. He does that thing where he keeps jumping in the center, and then he does this like dance that like makes the bugs kind of swarm in, which is very annoying. Some people might like it, but I mean, I just think it's a little tedious sometimes on the harder modes.
Let me ask you a question.
But
say Sadler kills Leon. What's Sadler gonna do? He's a giant crab.
I don't know. Yeah, can he just
stand there for the rest of his life on the island?
I wondered that. Can they go back? Because like even Mendez, like, dude, he's screwed. He's just a giant like.
No, I can't go back. That's it.
That's it then. That sucks. Like, I wouldn't want to do that.
Yeah, it's like, you committed, man. Come on. If you're that committed, you should do it. But you can't really go back and be a normal, or look normal anyway. But like, the overall like fight itself, it's not very long. It has 2 segments. Like, the second segment is like getting him into where you actually see like him in the center of his, like, this to be the heart, I guess, basically. So you have to shoot that down until Ada drops the rocket launcher, of course, as she needs to, and drops a special rocket launcher. You shoot that fucker, and it's cool though. He has that scene where he kind of runs up, and again, very, very action, Leon, and destroys Sadler. And Ada being Ada still, she makes sure that Leon hands over the amber, and she has what she wants with the mission. And the thing is too, it's like, we knew that she was gonna have that kind of interaction with Leon, but we also didn't know what was gonna necessarily happen at the end, which was actually pretty different, and we'll talk about that up here in a second. But because a lot of this stuff is the same, or it's same beats, but just more stuff added. But yeah, the whole jet ski escape, obviously Ada still sets up a jet ski. So when you finally destroy Sadler, you have to escape with Ashley, but there is a little different twist this time, because we don't really see the Ganados in the original after Sadler's dead. We don't really see how they react or what happens, and the one thing they actually showed was them reacting to the fact that their leader, their master, is completely dead, and they're just like, seizing on the ground, shaking on the ground, which was a really cool add-on. Very, very, very cool. Just to see what they would do, because you don't see it. You just escape on the jet ski and that's it. But in the original, but in here in the remake, they show that off, which is cool.
They have no more input. Like, you
There's
know how
no input. Yeah.
like bees and ants and stuff. There's the leader that puts out the pheromones to guide them.
Yeah.
It's like the same thing. They just have no like
there's
instruction.
nothing.
Like there's nothing getting in there.
Yes, that was really cool. Him coming through the door, and it's like then he lets go of Leon, and then he's just like, oh wow, their master's dead, so they have nowhere else to go or turn to. So that was a really cool touch that really put the cherry on top of the island. And then also, of course, the jet ski segment. Jet ski has a health bar. There's a bunch of shit you can hit. It's a little bit more intricate, I guess, than just like dodging a few tunnels, going up a few ramps. Like you have to kind of go through some of the wreckage and stuff, and actually still, she's still in the back. She's like, oh my god, like, so there's still that little escape sequence, and I mean, I've definitely fucking wiped out on that thing a lot more than I did on the original, because the original, I feel like I've died, like, again, because of the load time of like how fast that, if you play the original on like PS4 or Xbox One, like that version, it loads so fast. Like the wave is like right behind Leon. I'm like, it doesn't load this fast in the originals. What the same thing with the boulder. I'm like, I'm tapping A and it's like right behind Leon. Like, what the fuck? Like here, it's just like it's sectioned out a little bit better, and I like that. You can, if you really like slow down a little bit, you can just kind of dodge, and then you can get that achievement where you don't take damage. So it's not like too bad. But obviously, once you play it like 8 gazillion times, like where everything is. So like a lot of this stuff I'm talking about, when people are like, well, what do you mean like it's hard for you, or what? I'm really talking about like when I'm first playing the game. Right. People probably understand that at this point in the podcast, but like I'm just trying to make it clear. But like so you escape on a jet ski, la-di-da, cool, it's all fun and dandy. Leon escapes with Ashley, and they kind of have the scene where Ada is in the helicopter, and she contacts Albert Wesker, which we finally see Wesker for the first time in the RE engine, talking to her, and he wants to see what's going on, with Ada, checking in if she has the vial, and then he lets her know his intentions, the break of it, it promises a new dawn, the break that will cause billions of casualties. And Ada gets disgusted, holds the pilot at gunpoint, and tells him to change course, which does not happen in the original. Wesker just kind of just laughs, and you don't even see Wesker at all in the original cutscene. You only see Wesker in separate ways in the original. So that's another thing to point out. So here they specifically have that cutscene in here to show us Ada's going AWOL. How the hell does Wesker get that sample, and where is Ada going? Now, you see the little boat in the distance, or I think that's the jet ski, rather. Some people say it's a boat, jet ski. That's definitely Leon's jet ski. So I think she's either heading towards that, or she's just like going in a different direction altogether. But like he even says it to Ada, like, I guess this is where we go our separate ways. Oh, like he says it. Yeah. So it's like, okay, Capcom, we get it. Like, we know what you're doing. But it's still kind of leaving that door open where their relationship is like they keep meeting each other in this like weird circumstance where she's going off on her own missions and Leon has to do the job by the book because that's what he does. He's here to protect. And who knows where Ada's going to go, but I mean, you can see apparently the room that, a similar room like in RE5, like with the plants and the flowers. People were saying he's in that room. People were also saying you could see Excella in his sunglasses. So it's safe to say that Resident Evil 5 is the next remake. I'm not going to, say it over and over again because I know everybody's seen the scene at this point. It's been talked about. But God damn it, I'm talking about it 2 months later. I don't care, you know.
The mechanics are there. The ending is there. They're pointing you in that direction.
Ada can turn away and go AWOL, but Wesker's not just going to turn around and not let that be, you know, his, right? To some regard. Even if he goes back to the island and he, you know, even if it explodes, right? If it explodes, but like, you know, it can get destroyed, but there can always be, you know, some other way he can kind of get that in. But seeing Wesker back is cool.
The island blew up, but not the other sections.
Right. And it's like, dude, like Wesker has the resources. Yeah, he has the resources if he's going to do it. If he's that serious about the whole, like, you know, if he wants to get back on this global saturation, you know, RE5 stuff that he's going to be talking about, him saying billions of casualties in this, that sounds exactly where he's going with that. And seeing Wesker in the RE engine for the first time is really cool because we're going to get him in a potential RE1 remake if we get that. And, you know, in the second up, we'll actually get him in his full Wesker, you know, super, you know, mode, like how we saw him in 5, but portrayed maybe in an even better way than before. I mean, I love DC Douglas as well. I thought he also was a great Wesker for the voice. This guy, his name is Craig Bernatowski. That's who played Wesker. So, like, he only said a few lines. Sounds pretty good, but I mean, like, I know a lot of people, again, are attached to the old, you know, voices, but we'll see. I think he'll probably have more of a voice role in separate ways.
It's a new game. Who cares?
Yeah, and it's a new game. Like, Ada's going to have more lines in separate ways. Wesker's going to have more lines in separate ways.
I think the fans put a little too much into these voice actor things than the actual voice actors.
Yeah, I know, because because that was all in the
People
headlines.
Just take a gig and they go with it, man.
Yeah, and look, I'm not going to say, like, you know, everybody knocked it out of the park, but some people did and some people didn't, and people got to just get a life. You know, if you don't like the actor, you just got to move on with your life, you know what I mean, and not worry about social media and all this crap, you know what I mean, because these are just video games at the end of the day. So it's like, you just gotta leave these people alone.
You know what's funny? People get mad about this stuff, but they're gonna remake these games long after you're gone.
Yeah, and there's gonna be a different voice actor. Yeah.
In another 100 years, they'll remake Resident Evil, the game.
Look at Solid Snake. He's on his, like, 3rd or 4th voice actor, right? It's
right.
like...
But, I mean, people, they got all this outrage for nothing. Like, who cares? If you don't like the new... If that bothers you, don't buy the new game. But I have to buy it. No, you don't!
Yeah.
Make a decision. Put on your big boy pants.
And a lot of that stuff, like, that wasn't even, you know, we didn't even mention it. Don't go on the
internet and start screaming at people that have nothing to do with it.
Right.
Capcom gave those people a paycheck. The fans act like the voice actors kicked the door down and said, I'm going to play Ada. Screw the last voice actor or actress. I'm going to play Wesker. Screw the last guy that played Wesker. It doesn't work like that. Capcom goes, okay, we're remaking the game. We don't want these people anymore. Who do we get?
Yeah, and they switch.
Okay, hire this guy, hire that girl, hire this guy. Let's go.
They switch people up every time, you know. And,
so don't be harassing people online. Like, if you really have to do that, you have a mental problem, and you need to go see a doctor, a therapist, psychiatrist. Somebody needs to talk to you. I mean, you need to talk to them. They're not going to look for you. You got to look for them.
Because, like, we didn't talk about it this whole show up until now, but because it's not gonna, because the couple of voice actors or voice acting like that we didn't like in this game didn't alter our game experience. Like,
no, I don't care. I don't care. I've been playing since day one. I don't care about all this stuff.
Yeah, you can skip the cutscenes if you want.
This stuff. I'm sorry, but you need a life. You need to go outside and touch grass. Okay. You need to go outside, and the only breast I know you guys have been touching is a bucket of KFC. All right? Maybe you need to change that too. All right? But the bottom line is this. Enough.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, for us, it's not really detrimental to the game, and we we still enjoyed it, regardless of some performances being, you know, what they were.
Who cares? If you have to harass people online, you're an idiot. And you need to reevaluate your life.
That's going too far. That's just going too far.
They didn't put this guy in the movie. Hey, I'm going to write stuff online to hurt them. It's like, dude, you're an idiot. Yeah. All right, you're an idiot.
You can dislike
and you have mental
you don't
problems.
Have to go out of your way to, you know, harass people.
And
just
look,
enjoy the game, buy the game and enjoy it. Don't worry about it. Everyone puts too much stock into this stuff.
Yeah,
have fun.
Yeah, have fun and enjoy it. And look, they're setting up RE5. This did really well. So they're going
No,
to
Anthony,
set this up.
they set up Code Veronica.
Well, a lot of people want Code Veronica too. I mean, look.
Hey, I want $1 million. Am I going to get that shit? No. Hey, shit in one hand and wish in the other and see which one fills up first. I mean, that's the bottom line here. You get 5 next, whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
They're flat out telling you you're getting 5 next.
Yeah, no.
Like, they're talking about Code Veronica. No, they're not.
They don't care about Code Veronica. Capcom's made it clear they don't care about Code Veronica. And we'll say it
no
here
matter
on
how many
record.
times we tell them, Anthony, nobody listens.
No. And we're not saying they're never going to do it. They're just not doing it now.
They're not doing it now.
You got 5 and 9. That's what they're working
Yeah,
on.
5 and 9 is going to be
You're going to get
on the
9,
horizon.
then you're going to get 5.
I'm sure
then
we'll
you're
get
gonna get
DLC
10,
announced
then you're gonna
sometime
get
this
6.
year. You know, I'm sure we'll get something, announced this year.
You will
but
get something by October, I guarantee you.
They just announced the VR2 trailer, but they didn't announce a date, but they announced that yesterday as of this recording, in case anyone's wondering. But yeah, so overall, though, I mean, I'd say the gameplay, the graphics, the combat, the writing is just very well done. They knocked it out of the park here with this remake. And, I really, I mean, even the unlockables, we'll talk a little bit about that real quick. Like, the replay value unlockables, the only thing I would say about the unlockables, obviously there's Chicago Sweeper, there's the hand cannon, there's the infinite rocket launcher, there's infinite ammo. Great replay value. 10 out of 10 replay value. Mercenaries is fun as hell. Replaying the game is fun as hell. Like you guys said, it's just fun to turn on and play through it at any point. But the one thing that I wish that was a little bit better was the costumes. Like, I wasn't really digging the, like, Final Fantasy Devil May Cry Leon shit, honestly.
Yeah, no.
And they didn't even bring back his RPD outfit. Like, how are you going to bring back his Mafia outfit and, like, the cool jacket outfit, but his RE2 RPD outfit isn't? Like, if they do a gold edition, can you please just put that in? Because you already have it in RE2.
The
Just
modders
put it in
already
there.
put it in on Steam,
Well-
and they put in the Polygon Leon as well.
But, like, put it on the console. It's like, come on. Like, obviously.
Yeah, I don't. You know what it is? Capcom does a good job of not putting too much Japanese-esque type stuff in their games, which is good.
Right. But the costumes, man.
But this is an issue where they put too much Japanese type shit in the game. Like
Yeah.
the costume. Like, really, I'm gonna walk around with the freaking feather thing sticking out Leon like this. Ooh,
Well, you have to wear the cat
one's
ears.
gonna do that,
You have to wear the
man.
cat ears for the infinite ammo,
Yeah, and that's.
That's stupid.
I'll be honest with you, that's really dumb.
It's like, dude, just turn it on like RE5. RE5,
That's
infinite ammo on. That's all you have to
That's
do.
Japanese shit. That's,
Yeah.
Oh, look how cute. She wears cat ears, or he wears cat ears.
That's why it pissed me off in Halo when
It's
they
like,
had cat ears. I was
guys.
like, come on. Like, why do you got to have cat ears in Halo now? Like, this is just bad.
Yeah, but like you said, in order to get infinite ammo, you need the cat ears in this game, no matter what.
Yeah.
And it's just like, guys, stop. Like, it's really annoying. People just want to play with infinite ammo, not having any of this crazy extra stuff.
Yeah. And you can get
But they
the
think
Ashley
that's
stuff like.
cute and funny. It's not cute and funny. You're trying to run through a game. You're trying to have fun.
Yeah, it's like there's there's a lot of costumes that just didn't really, I just didn't really care for. But like they got Leon's Mafia costume down. They got Ashley's suit of armor too, where she's like indestructible. You can get that. You got to beat it on a higher rank for that. So like the replay stuff is all here, and like obviously Mercenaries was added in a few weeks after release, and that was fun as hell too, man. I know like it's very standard and streamlined, but like again, they're getting you ready for the co-op mercs. That is going to happen in 5. I mean, even if
Like we said, a lot of mechanics from 5 are already in this game.
yeah, like I have no doubt that they would do that. I wouldn't even mind if they were like, oh, by the way, here's this like they wouldn't charge full price. They shouldn't. But if they had a standalone Mercenaries game with the RE Engine maps and RE Engine people in there, that's pretty cool. I would like that, like a Mercenaries 3D, but obviously not on a 3DS, just like a current day RE Engine.
Maybe we'll
Mercs.
get that with 5.
Yeah, so like yeah, really make it a reunion, right? Have Rebecca, Barry, and then everyone else that was in all of these games and Mercenaries, like RE5, because RE5 did the whole, you know, classic bring them all back type stuff. And I think, I don't know, man, like you said, the chips are in place for that, and we got to be ready for it, and we got to embrace it. But like, you know, I'm really happy that we were able to kind of get on here and just kind of shoot the shit and talk about it too, because, you know, I think this was long overdue. And, you know, obviously I wanted to get my review out, but I wanted to do this when it was right and when the schedules worked out. And, you know, I'm happy it worked out this way, where we could just kind of talk about it in this space, and people can also kind of chime in and listen to it and can relate or, you know, agree to disagree. But a lot of people will probably agree with us because this is a great game, and I didn't really see much people.
They will agree or they will be banned from the channel.
Yes. You will agree or else. You have to think like us only. No. But no, I think there's people that definitely will say that this is, you know, in fact, better than the original. So I want to spin
100%.
that. So I was going to say, so you guys, obviously, I know Frank has only played this one, but I know Perry immediately thinks this. Now, for me, I'm still just like, I mean, I think this is a fantastic remake. It's not my favorite remake. I'm going to be that guy and say, you know, RE1 remake is still my favorite. But, you know, I still think this is a fantastic remake. I mean, this is really up there with one of my favorite remakes. And I just like, you know, a lot of the classic style Resident Evil stuff, and I really do like Remake 2002 that much. So I hope people get where I'm coming from with that. But I still love RE4 Remake, and I still love the original. And it's hard for me to say right now still, because it's only been 2 months. I have to just live with this thing a little bit longer, but because I still love the original, I still love the remake, so it's just so hard, like, picking favorites, like, because you spend so
You're not supposed to pick favorites. They're all great games.
Yeah, it's just, you know, one I prefer over the other. It's like, man, I played that RE4 original so much, and I played the remake so much in this time, but still nowhere as near as many times as I played the original, in terms of, like, literally beating it over, like, 200 times, all collectively with, like, all consoles, like, super, like, nutty stuff. But, like, and that's what us fans do, like, you know, we play them into the ground. But I don't know, you know, for me, I don't want to seem like a cop-out not answering it, because I felt like in my review I was like, I have to keep it real. Like, I just don't have a definitive answer in terms of, like, what I like better, but I can say that this is a fucking fantastic remake, and I wouldn't have wanted them to do it any other way. And if this is showing where, you know, they're going with the, you know, the future of RE stuff, keep it like this. Don't get too excited. You know, just keep it grounded. You can have your action. That's fine. I think co-op is going to make or break that 5. If they add it in there, if they don't have it in there, it's going to be bad. But I don't know. You know what I mean? But someone would be like, well, what do you mean, Anthony? The co-op, if it's in there, it will be bad. I don't know. I think it needs to have a partner co-op mechanic, unless they want to make it like RE6, and they could do that. Instead of having Sheva have a health bar, you know, maybe she only has a health bar when you play with her, you know, in the actual, like, co-op realm. But then when you have the actual, like, RE6 mechanic and you're by yourself, Sheva won't waste ammo. She won't, you know, get hit a bunch of times and waste. I don't know. They could do that again. Because RE6 was like that, where, you know, you had your blocks of health, and then you had, you know, when they would leave the game, they would just go back to normal shit.
If you got Sheva with you the whole time, you can't be crafting ammo. Because then you have to craft ammo and
you barely have time to give her ammo in combat, let alone craft. Yeah, they have to.
So the crafting might go away.
They're going to have to reevaluate some stuff. You're right. They're going to either have to do one or the other, or they're going to have to make it to where she can't waste your crap, because you would give her stuff to, like, oh, storage, but then she wastes your ammo unless you give her a gun that's, like, not the ammo you're giving her, which is, like, already a pain in the ass to think about. That's why just playing that game co-op is just, like, it's so much easier because you don't have to worry about the Sheva AI. If anybody played RE5 that way, like, I'm seriously sorry, and I don't blame you if you hate RE5 because of that, because, like, that would drive me insane, to be honest. you got to play that game with someone, even if it's like someone on an Xbox community thing or like a whatever. Like someone has to play that game with someone versus playing it by themselves. But again, we'll see what the future has with that, but I think they did a really good job, man. I think Capcom, they're in a good spot right now.
They nailed it.
They nailed it, and
hit it out the park.
Hit it out the park, man. And I think the next step for them is just getting separate ways out. Obviously, you got Death Island coming out in the summer, which connects with the canon of the game, so that's good. That's good news. We get to see an Ari Avengers type film, Jill and Leon meeting for the first time, and that's really cool. So, I was gonna say something too about the future of Ari. We know 9's coming, and we know that 5's coming. So I think what I think they'll probably do is just focus on 9, showing that off sometime this year maybe, and then circle back around to 5. I don't think 5's going to be like next year, but I think 9 will probably be next year.
No, I think 9 releases early next year, and I think 5 releases on the 30th anniversary.
Yeah, if they keep with the theme, they'll jump back to the main line. And,
or 2025.
And look, RE4,
30th, you know what I mean.
RE4 Remake started development in 2018, right? So this basically means that, RE5 is probably already a couple years in. And because, again, like we always say, and me and Perry say it too, when we're at least in, the LTRE space, like, these games will come out, just chill out and relax, and hang out. It will happen. The other spin-offs will happen. The remakes you want to see will happen. If you want to see one remade again, that will happen. Just give it time. And we say that because how many teams do they have? Like, they know what they're doing. They know how to manipulate. They're smart businessmen over there. They know what's going on. They're like, okay, we got to have this ready in the oven for when this is ready. We got to have, we got to meet these quarterly goals and like release this, that. Like, they know what they're doing. They got Street Fighter, Dragon's Dogma. They got, what's another Capcom game coming out this year? I don't even know what else they got. Probably more Monster Hunter DLC for the millionth time. That's the other one, Exoprimal. Sorry, I completely blanked that out. But I will be playing that. But yes, it's just like, we're in a good time right now. Because 10, 11 years ago,
yeah, they're about to go under.
They were about to go under, and we weren't in a good spot, and that was a couple years starting this show here, and even the channel. But I started this channel out of the RE5 DLC, so it's kind of crazy where we've come since then.
It's coming full circle.
It's coming full circle, which is nuts. And it already kind of did in a way, like it already kind of started to, honestly, because my first full video game Let's Play on this channel was RE4 for GameCube. So
well, there you go.
And so it's like it kind of connects. 4 and 5 have a real cool history and connection with this channel. So yeah, I always kind of hold them very special in my heart for that. But yeah, I mean, as far as like final thoughts, Frank, I just want to hear from you as far as like your final thoughts on RE4 Remake, and then Perry, if there's anything else you kind of wanted to mention or kind of get off your chest before we get out of here.
I thought the remake was awesome. We've been saying, I never played the original, but I played the other remakes.
Right.
And up until this, 2 was my favorite. After this, 4 all the way. Like, I love the game. I'm really looking forward to 5. Perry and I played through 5 not too long ago, so I'm familiar with
6.
that now. And 6, yeah, we did.
Yeah, you did both.
So this will be the first one that I've played through that's going to get a remake. So I'm kind of excited about that. But back to 4, I mean, I can't get enough of this game. I love it. It's just something it's almost like I was telling you before, it's like there's a familiarity and like a comfort to it. Like I could just come home, sit down and play it for a little bit, just chill out, relax, listen to something while I'm playing it. It's just great. It's a great game. I double dipped. I bought it on PC and on Xbox because I want access to it wherever. I can't recommend it enough. I mean, even if you've never played Resident Evil before, this is a great game to just hop into. So I love it.
That's awesome, and that's a really good point too. Like, because the original RE4 was a lot of people's first Resident Evil, so this can still kind of be that to them, you know. Or Village was their first Resident Evil, and now they're like, oh well, now I got to get the remakes, you know. Like, that's what Capcom wants. So they want to kind of build off this new ecosystem of RE engine titles, and I mean, it's working because they're selling like fucking crazy. So, you know, and we'll see, you know, what happens in terms of, like, you know, when they announce the next, you know, wave of RE stuff. And if they do, it might be, you know, at a showcase or something like that. That'd be really cool. Obviously, like I said, the only thing Capcom showed at the Sony showcase the other day was Dragon's Dogma and Street Fighter and RE4 VR. So nothing else as far as, you know, the E3 time of year, which is, you know, was supposed to be next month. Sony just kind of went with their event yesterday, and so that's where we're at. Which was, you know, only like 3 or 4 good games actually were shown, but that's beside the point. I don't want to dive into that, but I definitely am happy.
Let me tell you something, Jeff Keighley, you bitch. You can go fuck yourself, motherfucker. You know why? Because you snubbed RE2 Remake. Now you can't ignore RE4 Remake, because this game's a 10 out of 10. This game is a masterpiece.
Do you think he's gonna give it you think he's actually gonna give it?
He's gonna have to make a remakes category, and this has to win.
It has to. RE2 lost to
Which
Sekiro,
is bullshit
and
that
I've
he has
never
to
played...
make a remakes category. He shouldn't have ignored all the remakes. Like, this guy claims he's all about gaming. He's all about PlayStation. He don't care about gaming. Fuck that guy. And you know what, Jeff Keighley, you bitch? Fuck you. Make a fucking remake category, and this has to win. Okay? I'm sick of you snubbing remakes, you fucking bitch.
I mean, this game does.
If Kojima remade fucking Metal Gear, he'd be like, oh my god, yeah. Hey, well, I thought you don't like remakes. Oh, well, it's Kojima, my boyfriend. I have to put it in. He puts a lot in somewhere else. Listen, you bitch. You Keeley bitch. Do it. Don't ignore these games anymore. They're good. And you know, his awards thing is all rigged anyway, so fuck that. We all know that.
Yeah, we just make fun of it every year. That's the only reason why.
And it's funny, people will be like, "Oh, you said it's rigged because you're butthurt." No, it actually is. If you look on the board of the Game Awards, Microsoft's on the board, Sony's on the board, Nintendo's on the board. So basically, it's just a big fucking commercial to promote games.
Yeah, that's it.
So look into it, everybody. I'm not crazy.
No, you're not. And that's why you riff on it every year. You know?
And that's why they should recognize this game.
Yeah, RE2 lost to Sekiro. I've never played Sekiro, but, you know...
Fuck that game.
I'm also not...
Fuck that guy!
I'm not up to date on every...
Elden Ring blows away Sekiro. Don't worry about Sekiro.
Well, yeah, that's a clear... Well, that's the thing, though, right? So, Elden Ring came out... what was that? That's that one... That was last year's win. So now you're gonna have Zelda... You're gonna have
Zelda's
Resident Evil.
Game of the Year.
Yeah, I was gonna say. So, Zelda, Resident Evil. I'm sure they'll probably throw in something else in there too.
Maybe Spider-Man 2.
Yeah, Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, any other thoughts you wanted to say, Perry, on RE4 before we?
I like the ending, how they changed it. Ashley's not an underage girl trying to sleep with an older man.
Oh yeah, that also didn't happen. Yeah.
And they made her... The way that they changed that ending was perfect for both characters, because Leon doesn't look like a douchebag.
He looks like a hero, and that's just
yeah,
what he did.
And
he did
Ashley looks like a powerful woman, as opposed to an airhead kid that wants to have sex with this guy. So they did the right thing there. And Leon's not begging Hunnigan for a date, which I thought that was... He came up like a real dickhead in the original one. Not gonna... Yeah, I got underage girls that want to sleep with me, and oh, Hunnigan, what are you doing, baby? It's like, what the fuck is going on here?
I just love how you said Leon was a dick in the old one.
He was.
No, he was.
And Hunnigan's actually a joke in this game, because she pinpoints where the jet ski is, and nobody gives a shit at the end.
She's just like walks away from her desk. She's like, well, I did my job. Here's her ranking, you know. You can actually...
she's trying to call for him at the end when the jet ski's going away.
Oh, yeah, she's like,
and he's
Leon.
ignoring.
All the characters were done very well, and Sadler was pretty cool. I like the fact that he was more reserved and they waited to show him. You know, I know his voice acting was kind of like, it was kind of funny in the trailer, but I thought he did a good job, and I thought that they waited to show him for those reasons of like, okay, we want to make it seem like because you're seeing him be affected through this parasite, Leon and Ashley, like they just wanted you to, wait to see. I mean, it's not like we didn't expect it as fans, but like, I don't know, they just still wanted to make it a little bit more like, okay, let's make him more like a villain that you don't really see until the very end when he confronts Ashley and Leon.
Can we get a live sex show? Sadler and Jeff Keighley at the Game Awards.
Oh, no.
With,
no.
Post-transformation Sadler? Where he's like
what's his name? Tenacious D playing while they're in bed?
Oh, God.
Oh, no.
Tenacious D. Fuck those guys. Those old fucks.
Come on, I love Tenacious D. Pick a Destiny is amazing.
Let's all hope Ashley works on her knife safety skills.
Yes. That she does have to work on. She also has to, not be referenced ever again, because that's pretty much what they did after 4. She was never referenced again or anything. So yeah, she's just pretty much like just for this game. But, Capcom does that with a lot of characters. They never bring them back. Like, I always thought that I remember when I first saw RE6, I thought that Sherry was Ashley at first, because I thought that they were going to continue, like she stayed within the, like she started to, stand up for, like fighting and stuff, and she like wanted to be within the front lines. But then it was, obviously, Sherry Birkin. But yeah, it's like some of the characters we'll never see again. But for the remakes, though, at least when you bring them in again, you do them a lot better, and they're written a lot better, they're portrayed a lot better. I'm all for it. And her actress did a good job, and all the actors, for the most part, did a good job. And I think they also did a really good job with just trying to push this engine as much as they could, which is like, I know that unfortunately the current patches on the consoles created a lot of frame dips for both machines. So if you have it on PC, when you're listening to this, you're winning all the time because you have the best version. But that will be me soon, hopefully, once I get this new build ready. But
we're live streaming that.
Yeah, so that will be live streamed. Yeah, I'm working on building another PC, guys, for people that are,
And how long has your last PC we built for you lasted?
10 years, and almost it'll be 10 years this August. So it'll be 10 years by the time we build it. And yeah, it was a next step. That was the next step. I was talking to a couple friends about that because we're talking about like where we were 10 years ago, and I was like, yeah, we were doing the film and that kind of, and then Perry kind of pushed me to do the computer thing, and Game Complainer started. It was a crazy time. So I think that was like, you look at a decade, you're like, shit, a lot can happen in 10 years. Well, that was like the next step, because that was able to get me through that next era of like content creation. So yeah, it's awesome. I mean, I'm happy to kind of get up to speed with some of the stuff that I'm behind on, and in terms of like the computer stuff. So, and then I could do a lot more on the content side, a lot more in terms of like, doing stuff on the PC that like, obviously you can't just do on consoles, and mods and funny shit that would just be hours of content and fun stuff that I can't really gain access to, or if I did, I couldn't really present it in the best production. So that's why some of that stuff is better saved for that time. But it'll be soon. So it'll be a little bit more urgent than I thought. Not so much because anything's wrong, but it's just like if I can try to get it done in the summer.
Okay, the bottom line is your computer's 10 years old, you got to get a new one. That's it.
Yeah.
Simple stuff.
Exactly. If I can get it done this summer,
and you waited
great.
At the right time, because now all this stuff is cheap.
Yeah. So that's good news for people that are listening or watching. If you haven't, heard that in a past recent live stream.
We're building him the $300 PC challenge build.
everyone has to donate 1 penny. No. Yeah, I'm excited for that. I'm excited to see, what's going on with that. And of course with again, like the new games coming out, trying to cover them the best I can always. But yeah, I mean, this has been a great chat. Seriously, thank you guys for doing this. Thanks for coming on.
I was able to get my ideas out about this game without driving people insane.
Yeah, no, it's all good. Yeah, no, it was cool to get a fresh perspective on it and a fresh take, because hearing all of your reactions to the remakes and stuff have been cool, because it's always been new, or hear those new reactions as they as those games come out, because we were doing Game Complainers and you didn't even play any RE. You know what I mean? At that
I
time,
heard you guys talking about it.
You would just hear us talk about it,
about?
and then yeah. And what was the first one that you actually dove into? Was it
when they put RE1 remake on
That's what it was.
PlayStation Plus in like 2016 or whatever? I played that, and then then 2 and stuff was coming.
2 was right around the corner.
Yeah, so I was just getting into that.
Yeah. Yeah, and yeah, so it's just cool to see that perspective, and then Perry obviously played it a bunch too, so we're able to kind of get all of our ideas and opinions down well before, and kind of well documented in a way, and then kind of compile it all together in this roundtable. But of course, you guys know that you can always catch the podcast on Libsyn, Apple Podcast, Spotify, all that good stuff, and you can also smash the like button if you haven't yet, and subscribe if you're new. Leave a comment down below, and of course, let me know your thoughts on all of the RE4 stuff, and how would you review it? How would you kind of rank it in your top Resident Evils? I know it's in a lot of people's top list, and I know there's a lot of people that want me to do some kind of RE tier list, which will probably happen sooner than later. I kind of tested it a little bit with the live action tier list, but now that RE4 is out, I can kind of reassess it and do a proper tier list for all the games, which would be hefty, but I think a lot of people like tier list videos now, so that's kind of like the thing. Because I try to do a top 10, no one cares about top 10 anymore. People want to see the tiers. So I'm like, all right, they want to see the tiers. Tears of the Fallen Kingdom. No.
Tears of the Kingdom with Marcus Phoenix.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so this is a blast. It's always fun doing these review shows. I always look forward to them when, these games come out. I know this one was a little bit different, so thanks for, bearing with me, guys in here and people watching. So thanks for bearing with me on that. And, yeah, I think we got everything we needed to say on RE4. So let your voices be heard in the comments down below. And, the discussion doesn't have to stop. RE4 will always be, be played and streamed and talked about, I'm sure, obviously, because it'll be a fan favorite. And, I'll keep you guys updated on all the DLC stuff as well. And, thanks again, Perry and Frank. And you guys can always catch me, Perry, and Frank over on the Game Complainers every Wednesday night on YouTube, live at between 10:30 and 11:30 Eastern Standard Time. So this is kind of like a Game Complainers takeover, kind of, in a way. But it just kind of ended up that way. That wasn't really planned out necessarily, but it worked out. It just kind of worked out. And we've been doing that show for 10 years. We recently just celebrated 10 years over there. So I'll put that in the description.
We're going to celebrate our 500th episode in July.
500th episode in July. So all that link will be down below. And anything else you guys want to say before we head out?
Shout out Chris Redfield.
Shout out to Chris Redfield. Chris Redfield forever. That's it, guys. So thanks again for listening, watching. Thanks for all the support on this, road to Resident Evil 4 Remake. Like I said, there's still going to be more stuff coming out about it eventually, but until then, we'll just stream it, do some dice locks on it probably, have some fun with it, and until next time, we'll catch everyone in the next one. Take care.